Jack looks directly into his video camera on a night in May 1983.
The recording captures a blurry view of a fireplace within a darkened home.
Mr. Smith explains that he locked his wife in the bedroom because she has become animalistic and lost all bodily control.
The camera follows Mr. Smith as he walks through the dimly lit house.
Mr. Smith expresses his deep fear and uncertainty regarding whether the upcoming exorcism will actually be successful.
Mr. Smith invites the priest inside, leading him toward the back of the house.
The camera captures Mr. Smith and the priest moving deeper into the residence.
The priest maintains a stoic expression as he prepares for the ritual.
Mr. Smith demands that Jack stop recording and turn off the video camera immediately.
The priest informs Mr. Smith that he will need his assistance to perform the exorcism properly.
Mr. Smith warns Jack to stay outside the room no matter what sounds he hears.
A transition follows as the scene remains focused on the closed door through heavy static. Jack reaches out and begins to push the door open to see inside. The priest cowers on the floor in absolute terror as the door opens. The priest begs for his life and screams for someone to open the door.
A mangled, monstrous figure lunges from the darkness as someone screams for it to stop. Jack calls out for his mother while looking at the massive bloodstains on the floor.
A terrifying creature with glowing eyes stalks through the shadows of the home.
The monster's face distorts as it lets out a blood-curdling, otherworldly scream.
The screen transitions back to an old computer monitor flickering in a modern office. Sheriff Chloe McIntosh jumps in surprise when she realizes she is no longer alone. Chloe questions the validity of the footage, hoping it is merely a movie shoot.
Chloe expresses frustration over whether the disturbing tape can even be used as official evidence.
Heavy rain falls over the exterior of the local sheriff's department building at May. Chloe reviews the case files, noting that the Smith family and a priest were found dead.
She identifies a different man dressed in priest's robes as the primary suspect in the killings.
The report states that the suspect shot Mrs. Smith twice with a handgun.
Despite his denials and claims of innocence, the suspect is held in jail due to eyewitness accounts.
Chloe finds it strange as she digs deeper into the details of the incident. She notes that the evidence suggests Mrs. Smith was actually the one who killed her husband and son.
Chloe wonders how a woman with no psychiatric history could transform into the monster seen on the tape. A mysterious nun suddenly appears behind Chloe, watching her as she works. Chloe screams in terror as her papers scatter across the room.
The nun apologizes for scaring her and explains that she was waiting for Chloe to finish her work. Chloe attempts to maintain her authority while asking the outsider why she has entered the stand. Chloe leads the nun toward a desk to discuss her presence at the department.
Chloe is stunned to learn that the woman represents the Vatican in Rome. The senior officer explains that the Vatican wants to claim both the deceased priest and the suspect. Chloe protests the sudden release of a murder suspect, but her superior orders her to follow commands.
The senior officer informs a skeptical Chloe that she has been chosen to monitor the suspect.
Chloe enters the jail area with a key and introduces herself as the officer in charge of probation. Chloe warns the prisoner, Mr. Burns, to behave himself since his charges have not been cleared.
A hand flicks open a metal lighter, casting a small flame in the dim cell.
The nun greets the prisoner through the bars, signifying their long-awaited meeting.
Vincent Burns, an excommunicated exorcist for hire, lights a cigarette while listening to the visitors. Chloe and the nun stand together before Vincent's cell as the atmosphere remains tense.
Vincent questions why the Vatican would have any interest in him after his excommunication. The nun explains that his former teacher, Father Andres, has requested his help as a disciple.
Vincent asks what the Vatican's chief exorcist is currently doing that requires his assistance.
The nun delivers the news that Father Andres has passed away.
A grim report reveals that 56 exorcists were slaughtered in just 3 days.
The Vatican declares a suspension of all exorcisms until the crisis is fully understood. Vincent Burns realizes the Vatican's desperation while noting the sudden surge in requests.
Beatrice mentions the rumors of Vincent running a private office despite his excommunication.
Beatrice presents an official request for help, but Vincent remains silent and unbothered. He dismissively flicks his cigarette, questioning the weight of such an official request.
Vincent warns Beatrice that his services as an independent operator are far from cheap. The nun agrees to the terms provided the job is completed with professional care.
Beatrice of the Tryphus Monastery prepares to invoke a powerful promise of reward. She grandly offers to grant him any wish he desires in exchange for his cooperation. Chloe looks on in utter disbelief at the nun's extravagant and questionable offer.
The heavy cell lock is broken open, signifying the exorcist's return to the field.
Vincent immediately demands his car keys and a specific brand of liquor from the market. The free man wastes no time indulging in a drink as the mission begins. Narration explains a plague has been ravaging a local village for several months.
Heavy rain washes over the silent, dark rooftops of the afflicted and isolated town.
Vincent listens as Beatrice explains that all prior specialists sent here have vanished.
The primary goal is identified: rescue a single boy remaining in the abandoned village.
A lone church steeple stands tall against the gloom of the storm-drenched landscape.
Chloe questions why she is relegated to being the driver for an excommunicated criminal.
Vincent casually argues that he shouldn't drink and drive, especially without a valid license.
Chloe explodes in frustration, telling him he shouldn't be drinking in the first place. She threatens to return him to a cell if he attempts anything remotely suspicious.
The vehicle pulls up to a somber church surrounded by a field of graves. A discarded dog collar serves as a grim reminder of the boy's initial violence. The resident recounts how the boy transformed into an uncontrollably violent and destructive force.
The homeowner shows off a mutilated ear, a permanent scar from the child's attack.
Vincent orders Chloe to fetch his equipment while she questions what tools he needs. Chloe asks for the child's location, and the gaunt resident points toward the second floor. Vincent reaches into the back of his vehicle to retrieve his specialized weaponry. Beatrice finds it tragic that a demon would choose to possess a child of faith. Vincent hands off the axe, planning to wait in the car while she works.
A blood-curdling scream erupts from the building, echoing through the rainy night air.
Chloe finds herself alone in the dark, wondering what horrors lie within the shadows.
A monstrous entity looms over the officer, its presence filling her with pure dread.
Chloe collapses on the floor of the ruined hall, paralyzed by the overwhelming atmosphere.
The empty hall stretches out before her, filled with debris and an unnatural stillness.
She gasps in pain as something small and repulsive begins to swarm her.
Chloe screams as she realizes her arm is covered in hundreds of squirming parasites. A pair of pale, fleshy worms writhe on the tile, searching for fresh skin.
A heavy boot crushes the insects, putting an abrupt end to their frantic movement.
Vincent mocks Chloe's terror, suggesting she is overreacting to a few simple bugs.
Chloe frantically points out that the parasites are literally devouring the boy on the bed.
The boy begs for help, claiming his mother locked him away and left him thirsty.
Vincent notes the lack of water but offers the boy a sip of his alcohol. When the boy complains of hunger, Vincent dryly mentions his own plans for fast food.
The boy demands to be untied, while Vincent wonders if he should tie others up.
Vincent reveals his trap by noting he has no nephew, exposing the entity's lie.
The creature's facade shatters into a terrifying scream as its true nature is revealed.
Vincent brutally smashes his bottle against the demon's head, beginning the violent rite.
Vincent Burns looks enraged as he dismisses the demon's attempt at deception regarding their kinship.
The specialized glass flask begins to glow intensely as the exorcist prepares his next attack. A lighter is flicked open, casting a small flame as the tension reaches its peak. Chloe McIntosh shouts in alarm as the situation takes a sudden and violent turn for the worse. The demon bursts into a pillar of intense fire, revealing its horrific, flaming skeletal form. Chloe screams in panic, questioning the exorcist's brutal methods in the middle of a police investigation.
Vincent questions if Chloe truly believes the monstrous entity possesses any shred of human identity.
The demonic creature acknowledges the exorcist's fearsome reputation as the fire rages behind them. The entity reveals that Vincent's name is a source of terror among the inhabitants of hell. The flaming monster continues its taunt, implying that entering this village was a fatal error.
A mutated, distorted ghoul appears directly behind the sheriff as the demon's mockery reaches its conclusion.
Chloe screams in terror as the horrific creature prepares to strike her from the shadows.
A powerful bullet pierces through the air, striking the monster and sending it flying backward. Vincent confirms his knowledge of the specific type of demon they are facing in this village. He identifies the creature as a ghoul that thrives on corruption and inhabits rotting corpses. Vincent reveals the grim truth that the residence was completely devoid of actual human life.
The demon contests his statement, suggesting the scale of the horror is much larger than anticipated.
The entity reveals that the entire village has already been shaped into a monstrous army.
Beatrice reacts with calm surprise from the safety of the vehicle as the chaos escalates.
The nun notes the overwhelming odds as a literal army of monsters surrounds the church.
Spent metallic shells hit the floor with a rhythmic clatter, signaling a high-intensity gunfight.
Vincent explains that only his specialized ammunition can harm the demonic entities surrounding them. The exorcist warns Chloe to ignore the external horror and focus entirely on their immediate survival.
The church doors shatter as the horde of glowing-eyed monsters finally breaches the inner sanctuary.
A chaotic struggle ensues as monsters and fire blend into a single, terrifying image of war.
A massive blast of holy fire erupts, consuming several monsters in the center of the hall.
A sacred scroll unfurls through the air, glowing with divine energy amidst the darkening room.
The force of a powerful blow sends a large, grotesque creature reeling backward into its kin.
The demonic leader mocks Vincent's ability to withstand the sheer number of enemies facing him.
Vincent sheds his outer garments, revealing a body etched with power and bound in glowing chains. Vincent accepts the challenge, declaring his intent to finish his divine mission at any cost. A bloated, horrific entity leads the charge, its jaws agape and eyes glowing with malice.
Vincent's heavy weapon connects with the monster's skull, delivering a devastating and final blow.
The exorcist moves like a blur, carving a path of destruction through the unrelenting horde. Monsters are tossed through the air as Vincent's overwhelming physical power begins to dominate. Vincent ruthlessly finishes off a fallen foe with a single bone-crushing stomp to its head. He leaps into the air, wielding his glowing chains to ensnare multiple enemies at once.
The air is filled with the sound of clinking metal as the exorcist's chains lash out. A thunderous impact echoes through the building, shaking the very foundations of the old church.
Vincent stands amidst the carnage, his chains glowing brightly as he prepares for the next wave.
The holy chains form a massive cross, obliterating several monsters in a single divine strike. The sheriff fires her weapon repeatedly, determined to survive the nightmare unfolding around her. Vincent attacks from above while Chloe provides cover fire from below in a desperate team effort.
The oppressive atmosphere intensifies as the internal battle within the church reaches its fever pitch.
Chloe stands amidst the debris, catching her breath while the threat remains ever present. A mysterious and heavy presence looms closer, adding a new layer of dread to the scene.
The duo stand united against the remaining monsters, bracing for the next inevitable assault.
Vincent lets out a wild laugh while firing his specialized weapons into the approaching horde.
The demonic leader gazes in disbelief at the sheer power being displayed by the excommunicated priest.
The entity's confidence shatters as it realizes the true nature of the man standing before it. Splash art of the duo standing victoriously atop a pile of defeated ghouls within the church. Vincent mocks the demon, advising it to listen more closely to its hellish companion's warnings. A violent explosion of fire erupts, putting a final and brutal end to the creature's existence.
He brandishes a small glowing cross as he prepares for a final decisive strike.
The exorcist forcefully presses the holy symbol against the demon's forehead to seal its fate.
Vincent declares himself a true exorcist who does much more than just expel simple spirits.
He promises the entity that its journey back to the depths will be anything but painless.
Chloe looks on in shock as the ex-priest continues his brutal and relentless work.
Shimmering crosses pinch the monster's skeletal body, pinning it to the church's ancient walls.
He mockingly suggests the entity will be spending a very long time in his agonizing company. The demonic creature is completely crucified by divine light as the holy ritual reaches its end.
Tendrils of smoke drift through the broken fragments of stained glass as the church falls silent. Rain lashes down on the landscape while a distant voice cries out in desperate prayer.
A prayer is offered for the souls lost to the darkness that plagued the local village. The speaker begs for guidance to lead the departed toward a peaceful and heavenly kingdom.
A cross-shaped grave marker stands firm against the rain and the surrounding fading flames.
Vincent's eyes are weary and bloodshot as he vows to honor the fallen by continuing. He closes his eyes in a moment of heavy silence after the mission's brutal conclusion.
The storm breaks and a single word of prayer floats through the clear blue sky.
Vincent stands in a makeshift graveyard, offering a final, respectful prayer for the dead.
Chloe pulls up in a car, excitedly announcing that she has brought their transport. Vincent remarks that he never requested her help and prefers to handle the driving.
Chloe apologizes for her earlier doubts, but Vincent dismisses her flattery as a common occurrence. The demonic skull on his belt shouts insults, vowing never to forget its current humiliation.
Chloe is baffled and disgusted to find the talking skull still attached to the man. Vincent explains that death is trivial for demons returning to their home in hell. He brutally jams a cross into the skull's eye socket, eliciting a loud scream of pain.
The man argues that demons should suffer in proportion to the sins they have committed.
Chloe watches the torture in disbelief, concluding that the exorcist has finally lost his mind.
Beatrice of the Tryphus Monastery walks calmly across the sun-drenched field toward the waiting car.
Chloe panics when she hears they are heading straight into another dangerous situation immediately.
Beatrix explains that demons inhabiting stolen human bodies are already moving toward their goal.
She notes with confidence that the specific item the entities seek is somewhere very nearby.
The car drives along a precarious road carved into the side of a massive canyon. Vincent reveals the object of the demon's search is actually being stored in America. Beatrice mentions that Father Andres specifically wanted to entrust the valuable object to Vincent. Vincent is shocked that the man who had him excommunicated is now asking for help. Chloe questions why exactly the Vatican expelled him from their holy ranks in the past. Beatrice begins listing his crimes, noting he repeatedly broke several of the church's strictly held taboos. She describes how he stole relics to forge weapons and used excessively violent hunting methods.
Vincent stares out the window, ignoring the conversation about his questionable and checkered past.
Beatrice mentions the famous secret armory he illegally built beneath the foundation of the cathedral.
A sudden realization hits the exorcist as a close-up focuses on his intense stare.
Vincent abruptly commands Chloe to turn the car around while she questions his strange order. He warns that the path they are currently following has become a source of danger.
Vincent shouts for an immediate turn, though Chloe fears they will fall off the mountain.
Chloe frantically asks to turn around normally as Beatrice suddenly seizes control of the wheel. The vehicle performs a violent smoking U-turn on the narrow asphalt road near the cliff. The nun smiles at the shaken driver, asking if she saw the successful turn made. A rearview mirror shows the car speeding away as dust and smoke fill the air.
A yellow school bus and a black car race along a narrow mountain road.
Inside the car, the nun urgently commands the green-haired sheriff to stop the vehicle.
A horrific demonic entity with glowing eyes gazes through the window with a menacing grin.
Debris flies through the air as the vehicles clash violently on the precarious canyon path. The heavy bus slams into the car, causing a massive cloud of dust and fire.
Vincent remains calm while Chloe panics, realizing they are facing a literal bus full of demons.
A kick sends the car door flying open as Vincent prepares to join the fight.
Vincent stands atop the moving car as the massive bus looms dangerously close above them.
The demonic bus driver reacts with shock as the excommunicated priest leaps toward the windshield.
Vincent shatters the glass, crashing into the bus to confront the monsters hidden within.
His feet land heavily on the floor, signaling the start of a brutal internal confrontation. Vincent stands tall, his eyes burning with resolve as he faces a crowd of monsters.
The bus interior is packed with rows of demons sitting quietly like horrific schoolchildren.
He draws a specialized blade, mocking the ghouls for their unexpectedly orderly and proper behavior. Vincent's grin widens as he suggests notifying their teacher about their upcoming absence from school.
He opens fire with his golden gun, declaring that none of them will survive the day. The ghouls are caught in a state of sudden, terrified realization as the shooting begins.
The demonic driver is consumed by flames as the out-of-control vehicle begins to swerve wildly.
Vincent stands as a dark silhouette, surrounded by monsters as the bus reaches the cliff's edge.
He carves through the demonic horde with his blade, leaving a trail of fire and blood.
Gunfire erupts within the cramped space as Vincent ruthlessly eliminates multiple ghouls in rapid succession. The priest continues his relentless assault, cutting down every monster that dares to approach him.
The yellow bus careens off the road, launching into the open air of the deep canyon.
Gravity takes hold as the vehicle begins its long, destructive fall toward the canyon floor. Mid-fall, Vincent performs a deadly dance of steel and lead, ignoring the impending ground impact.
The bus tumbles down the rocky walls, shattering into pieces as it descends toward destruction.
Vincent delivers a powerful strike, ensuring his demonic targets suffer even while plummeting to earth.
He leaps gracefully from the wreckage as fire and metal explode around his athletic form. A final bone-crushing stomp from Vincent ends the life of a demon pinned to the wreckage.
The remnants of the bus hit the canyon floor with a thunderous, earth-shaking impact.
The shattered remains of the vehicle tumble further, coming to a final smoking halt below. A locked briefcase is ejected from the wreckage, sliding across the sand in the chaos.
A surviving demon crawls toward the case, desperately trying to salvage their mysterious and valuable cargo. The creature is suddenly bisected by a beam of light as Vincent arrives to claim it. Vincent mocks the demon's failed attempt to flee, standing victoriously over the dying monster's body.
He retrieves the briefcase, noting that it must be significant for the demons to protect it.
The talking skull on his belt insults him, shocked by the priest's sheer level of brutality. It expresses utter disbelief that the priest's reckless tactics didn't result in his own death.
Vincent looks back as the sheriff screams in terror while their car arrives at the bottom.
Beatrice praises Chloe's driving while the traumatized sheriff vows to never get behind the wheel again. The mysterious briefcase sits on the car's hood, radiating an aura of great importance and secrecy.
Beatrice explains that the demon's desperate protection of the item proves its immense holy value.
The nun gazes at the case with curiosity, sensing the powerful object stored safely inside.
A close-up reveals the papal emblem on the lock, confirming the item's high-ranking Vatican origin.
Beatrice confirms with certainty that they have successfully recovered the specific object they were seeking.
Vincent stands united with his companions, noting that the demons had managed to arrive first.
The talking skull screams in pain, begging the priest not to open the holy briefcase.
It warns that the contents are unmanageable for humans, prompting Vincent to ask for its identity.
The demonic skull admits its own ignorance, stating that the Vatican's secrets are kept from everyone. Vincent punishes the skull's uselessness with a forceful blow, silencing its constant and annoying complaints.
Chloe questions if they should open the briefcase and admits she feels very uneasy.
Vincent suggests checking the contents and closing it again afterward to be safe.
A brilliant, holy light floods the scene as the briefcase is finally clicked open. The group peers into the case, their faces glowing under the intensity of the light.
A white-haired girl is revealed, sleeping peacefully inside the case in a fetal position.
Chloe asks if it is a corpse, and Vincent admits it might be possible.
Vincent observes the girl, noting her complete lack of a pulse or any signs of breathing.
Chloe screams in horror as Vincent asks for the identity of the white-haired girl.
Beatrice confesses she was never informed about the specific contents of the briefcase.
Vincent sets the case down, suggesting they may find a clue at their original destination. The scene shifts to the local church, standing silent amidst the ruins of the village. A stone statue of a hooded figure stands watch over the desolate path to church. Vincent walks past the wreckage, grimly noting that everything in the area has been destroyed.
Chloe salutes and offers to wait outside, claiming the heavy bag might hinder them.
Chloe is baffled to find Beatrice has already followed Vincent inside without saying a word. Chloe panics, questioning if they are going inside and warning there might be demons within.
Beatrice smiles, explaining she feels safest staying close to Vincent during their exploration together.
Left alone outside, Chloe stands nervously in the wasteland beside the strange, glowing briefcase.
Overcome by fear, Chloe grabs the case and announces she is coming along too.
A gruesome discovery reveals a decapitated head lying in a pool of dark, thick blood. Vincent kneels over a body as Chloe and Beatrice enter the bloodstained church interior.
Chloe trembles, observing that it appears everyone in the church has suffered a gruesome death.
Vincent takes charge, commanding the two women to begin checking the church's other floors.
Chloe refuses to go alone, admitting she is far too scared to leave his side.
Vincent observes the dead are clutching objects tightly, making them very difficult to pull out.
Chloe agrees to go up, but demands that Vincent comes immediately if she screams.
Vincent's hand pulls a small, blood-soaked booklet from the tight grip of a dead person.
Vincent inspects the recovered booklet, which is dripping with fresh blood as he holds it.
Vincent sits alone in a pew, focused on reading the recovered blood-stained diary.
He notes the book is an ordinary priest's diary with nothing special inside of it.
Vincent flips through the pages, finding the back section unreadable due to the blood soakage.
A small gleam catches his eye as he notices something unusual about one specific page.
He realizes that only a single page in the diary has a uniquely different color. Vincent stares at the diary with focused intensity, sensing a hidden secret within its pages.
He uses a lighter, watching as the heat begins to reveal hidden text on the page.
Vincent deduces the paper uses temperature-sensitive pigment to conceal its true and most important message.
He focuses on a specific line of text which mentions a mysterious woman coming to visit.
The scene flashes back to a priest seeing a woman silhouetted in the church doorway.
The priest realized why she came after seeing her skin had already turned to stone.
She spoke of hearing whispers and suffering nightmares, revealing her unique and highly troubled nature.
The entry notes that Father Andres, the chief exorcist, was luckily present during her visit. The ritual failed to work, worsening her symptoms and leaving the priest feeling deeply uneasy.
Father Andres entrusted the local priest with 2 boxes before leaving the church in haste.
The flashback shows the priest standing before a line of hooded figures outside his church.
Vincent closes the book, his expression darkening as he processes the information he just read.
The entrance to a dark basement is revealed, littered with broken wood and rusted chains. A long hallway with patterned carpet is lined with several dark and foreboding open doorways.
Chloe mentions that being in a well-lit place makes her feel significantly more at peace. Beatrice credits the light to the shattered windows while Chloe searches through the filing cabinets.
Beatrice's eyes widen in sudden shock as she notices something unexpected in the quiet room.
Beatrice identifies a golden cup as a sacred item within the church ruins. Chloe asks how she knows, so Beatrice explains her expertise and intent to tell Vincent.
Narration notes the lack of clues regarding the mysterious briefcase found in the wreckage.
Chloe turns back toward the hallway as Beatrice continues her search in the distance.
Chloe stops in her tracks upon noticing a stone statue standing alone in the shadows.
The silent statue stands perfectly still, cast in a beam of light from above.
Chloe calls out to Beatrice, her voice echoing through the quiet, unsettling church corridor.
Beatrice turns around as Chloe begins to question the surroundings they previously explored.
Chloe realizes with growing dread that the statue was not there when they first arrived.
A hairline fracture appears on the face of the stone statue, revealing something dark underneath.
Chloe gasps in terror as the stone figure suddenly moves and drags its heavy weapon.
Sparks fly across the floor as the animated statue begins its slow, menacing approach.
Chloe draws her revolver, warning the stone demon to stay back or face her gunfire. The statue lets out a deafening roar while raising its massive axe for a strike.
Chloe pulls the trigger, firing a shot at the charging monster in self-defense.
The bullet strikes the statue's forehead but fails to slow down its relentless advance.
Despite the headshot, the stone creature continues its murderous rampage with an unsettling scream. Chloe narrowly avoids a lethal blow by sliding under the statue's powerful axe swing.
Beatrice warns that bullets are useless against the creature's incredibly thick and durable stone skin. Chloe slams the door shut, desperately trying to put a barrier between them and the monster.
The women flee down the hallway, Chloe screaming for Vincent's help as the statue pursues them.
Chloe bars another door, her hands shaking as she tries to secure their temporary hiding spot. She stands against the wall, catching her breath while keeping her weapon trained on the entrance.
Chloe slowly approaches the door again, hoping the creature has finally given up the chase.
She leans in to listen for any signs of movement on the other side.
The axe suddenly smashes through the wood, sending Chloe reeling back in a state of panic.
Hidden within the cracks of the stone face, several biological eyes peer out hungrily.
Chloe aims her gun with trembling hands, shouting for Vincent to arrive and save them.
On the floor, the mysterious briefcase begins to emit a pulsating and brilliant golden light.
The intensity of the light increases as the case vibrates with a powerful, holy aura.
The white-haired girl inside the case awakens, her eyes glowing with a fierce divine energy. Her golden eyes narrow with focused intent, signaling a dramatic shift in the battle's momentum. The scene transitions as the weight of the Vatican's secrets begins to unfold before them.
The statue smashes through the door again, renewing its assault on the terrified Chloe.
Chloe continues to scream for Vincent, her ammunition spent and her hope fading fast. A desperate plea for help echoes through the church as the situation reaches its breaking point.
Vincent sits in grim silence, seemingly unaware of the peril his companions are currently facing.
Outside, the yellow bus and the car continue their high-speed race across the desolate landscape.
The talking skull complains about a burning sensation, its hollow eyes filled with sudden pain.
The skulls protest being used as ornaments, claiming their status as former rulers of the dead.
The skull begrudgingly accepts its role, acknowledging that a demon must always be wary.
It warns that demons strike during moments of carelessness as centipedes emerge from its jaw.
Flashback reveals the bus wreckage swarming with demonic insects amidst the raging inferno.
A dying demon asks his comrade if they desire vengeance against the humans who defeated them.
A massive centipede offers power in exchange for the demon's body to facilitate their mutual revenge.
The demon named Alcar allows the parasites to enter his skull, fusing their dark energies together. Alcar rises with renewed strength, promising to fulfill the wish for bloody retribution.
In the present, the stone statue punches through a wall with devastating superhuman force.
Chloe shouts a frantic warning to Beatrice as the monster closes in for the kill.
The statue's fist shatters the architecture, nearly crushing Chloe as she scrambles to stay alive.
Chloe screams in agony, clutching her hand which shows signs of a painful burn.
A hand reaches out and firmly grasps the handle of a heavy wooden tool.
Chloe shouts as she swings the makeshift weapon, striking the stone monster with full force.
Chloe looks on with a bruised and determined face, panting from the physical exertion. Chloe cries out that it is too much, while Beatrice observes that this is their last stop.
Beatrice points to a box on the shelf and asks if they should use that.
Narration explains that holy water is often used in exorcisms as a glowing cup is revealed.
Beatrice suggests pouring the water into the gap on the face because the body seems useless.
Chloe prepares to use the holy water as the stone statue raises its bloody axe.
Chloe slides across the floor, desperately shielding the golden cup of holy water from the monster.
Chloe leaps into action, preparing to splash the sacred liquid onto a relentless stone pursuer.
The holy water splashes directly against the face of the monster, causing an immediate reaction. The stone creature howls in pain as the sacred water begins to burn its skin.
Chloe yells that it worked while looking triumphant and ready to continue the fight.
Chloe stares in shock as the creature claims she once said she would save them. The smoking statue asks why she did not hold on until the very end.
The weeping creature accuses Chloe of making it a monster as it touches its face.
Chloe stands frozen in shock, her eyes wide as she processes the creature's heartbreaking accusations.
Beatrice touches Chloe's shoulder and warns her not to be fooled by the creature. Beatrice clarifies that the entity is a demon while Chloe gazes on in terror.
Beatrix explains the demon is just mimicking by reading human memories. Beatrice notes that a possessed being who missed their chance can never return to being human.
Beatrice tells Chloe she must let that person go if she cares about them.
A hand grabs the large golden religious urn to use as a heavy blunt weapon. Chloe charges forward with the heavy golden vessel, her face twisted in a mask of rage. The stone monster yells, "These frauds," as it raises its heavy axe for an attack.
Chloe smashes the heavy golden vessel into the monster's face, causing it to shatter into pieces.
Chloe grinds her teeth, putting every ounce of her strength into the final, crushing blow.
Chloe lets out a final scream as she slams the heavy golden vessel down onto the monster.
A massive explosion of light and energy erupts from the point of impact on the floor. Thick clouds of dust and debris fill the corridor, obscuring the results of the brutal battle.
Chloe coughs as she stands amidst the settling dust, shielding her face from the choking air.
Pieces of the destroyed stone statue lie scattered across the floor, signaling the creature's defeat.
Chloe exclaims that it worked while Beatrice stands in the background with her hands clasped. Beatrice watches the rising smoke and grimly warns that it is not over yet. Beatrice shouts for Chloe to quickly escape from the area as the danger persists.
Chloe looks back into the settling haze, confused by Beatrice's sudden and frantic alarm.
Chloe gazes down in terror as a new and far more grotesque threat begins to emerge.
A massive, multi-eyed, fleshy demon with a glowing mouth rises from the ruins of the statue.
The demon unleashes a powerful blast of energy from its gaping, toothy maw toward its prey.
Chloe is hit by a sticky, glowing substance that pins her body to the floor. The demon asks how she dared to pour filthy holy water on it. The demon asks why she has the box meant for Mr. Mill while Chloe screams for Vincent.
The demonic web spreads across Chloe's face, gagging her and cutting off her desperate screams.
The demon informs the gagged Chloe that the priest will not come no matter her screams.
Narration reveals that the priest did not notice the demon until the moment he died.
A vision shows the priest standing in the dark, unaware of the massive claw reaching for him.
The demon chuckles at her terrified eyes as it leans in close. The demon expresses its liking for her fear and promises to collect her eyes too.
A hand holding a blood-stained axe appears, ready to strike the distracted demon from behind.
Beatrice asks if Mill is the demon behind the incident as the fleshy monster looms. A small bottle of holy water is hurled directly toward the demon's massive yellow eye.
Vincent charges the shrieking, multi-eyed creature while brandishing a massive, glowing orange energy blade. In a blinding flash, Vincent slices through the demon's limbs with his powerful glowing weapon.
Beatrice observes the combat, noting that the creature appears to be a high-ranking demon.
Beatrice concludes that other demons must be following this entity due to its immense power.
Bloodied and scarred, Vincent demands to know the monster's plan while resting his heavy weapon.
The demon expresses disbelief, swearing it previously struck Vincent's head with a lethal axe blow. The monster lunges forward with its glowing maw, vowing to kill the resilient priest this time.
A sharp sound echoes through the hallway as the scene shifts back toward Beatrice.
Beatrice readies her sharp metal claws while Chloe stands nearby with a wide, disturbing grin.
Several sharp, dark stakes pierce through Vincent's chest from behind, drawing a significant amount of blood.
Beatrice tells the demon to work harder while a massive yellow eye stares back intently.
Vincent looks on with glowing red eyes, mockingly asking if that was the creature's best. The demon expresses shock as Vincent firmly grips one of the stakes protruding from his chest.
Vincent dismisses the severity of the attack, looking completely unbothered by his gruesome torso wounds. Vincent explains that after killing countless demons, his severe wounds eventually began to heal instantly.
One of the demon's fleshy limbs is suddenly severed and shatters into several smaller pieces.
Vincent mockingly informs the creature that it does not possess the power to kill him.
Vincent raises a blood-stained blade over the defeated monster, preparing to deliver a final strike.
Chloe stares with a manic, wide-eyed expression as blood splatters across the dimly lit room.
Beatrice observes the brutal carnage and notes that she finally understands the current dire situation. Beatrice realizes why Father Andres was so desperate to find Vincent for this dangerous mission.
Beatrice recounts historical records of humans gaining special powers after slaying a vast number of demons.
Several yellow demonic eyes roll across the floor amidst splashes of glowing, sacred yellow blood.
Beatrice concludes that Vincent is no longer an ordinary human due to his unnatural healing abilities. Vincent stands in the shattered doorway, his silhouette cast against a bright, burning red light.
Trapped in a glass jar, the demon eye insists Vincent cannot truly defeat a demon.
Vincent stares at the eye inside the container, questioning the demon's arrogant and defiant claim. Vincent orders the demon to bring its allies immediately instead of dragging out their conflict.
Vincent holds up the jar while the demon shouts, refusing to divulge its secret location.
Vincent tosses the jar to Beatrice, expressing his dissatisfaction with the demon's useless, defiant answer.
Beatrice catches the jar and suggests shaking it until the demon spills some useful information.
Beatrice shakes the jar vigorously, causing the trapped demon eye to let out a scream.
Chloe calls out to Vincent, her expression filled with worry following the intense, bloody battle.
Chloe approaches Vincent with a look of deep suspicion, asking if he is still human.
Vincent turns his back to the group, giving a vague and non-committal response to her. Vincent states he would gladly sacrifice his humanity if it went killing every last demon. Vincent walks through the ruined doorway, reminding the others to bring the mysterious back along. Chloe lifts the brown briefcase and expresses immediate confusion at how light it has become.
A close-up view reveals that the interior of the briefcase is now completely empty.
Vincent opens the empty case in shock, asking Chloe if she secured the kid properly. Chloe stands frozen in panic, her mouth agape as she realizes the girl has vanished.
Beatrice stands by a shelf, looking dejected while holding a small, empty wooden storage box.
The group stands together in silence, processing the sudden and mysterious disappearance of the girl.
The scene shifts outside to the yellow bus parked near the old isolated church building. The talking skull plots to take advantage of the exorcist being caught off guard bail.
The skull is held aloft before a group of grotesque demons as their plan unfolds. The skull reveals that the human vehicle contains a large supply of high-yield explosives.
The skull orders the demons to blow up the entire church with the captured explosives.
A demon asks if their target will be destroyed in the upcoming explosion.
The skull explains that the target is indestructible except by a very specific method.
Demonic ghouls carry crates of explosives toward the school bus parked near the church.
The skull laughs maniacally, planning to turn the priest into a subservient pool.
The skull continues its sinister laughter while the mysterious white-haired girl watches from below.
The small barefoot girl stands silently on the grass, her long white hair flowing.
A demon notices the girl and demands to know how long she has been standing there.
The demon points out that walking across the vast, empty field unnoticed is impossible. The talking skull is offended by the demon's suggestion to turn the girl into a ghoul.
The group of demons lets out a terrifying roar as they prepare to attack the child.
The monstrous entities lunge toward the girl, their claws reaching for her in a red haze. A sudden burst of red energy shreds the attacking demons into a shower of gore.
Stunned by the sudden carnage, the skull frantically orders the remaining demons to the church.
The skull repeats its command as more demons are decimated into dark, bloody silhouettes.
The skull yells about disobedience while the demons begin to dissolve into floating white flowers.
The skull panics upon realizing everyone is dead as the girl's eyes glow with power.
A sudden impact sends the talking skull flying from the demon's grasp into the air. Vincent stands with his gun drawn, smoke rising from the barrel after the precise shot.
Vincent jams the gun into the skull's mouth and threatens to teach it a lesson.
Chloe and Beatrice arrive on the scene with Chloe pointing at the girl in disbelief.
The white-haired girl stands amidst a swirling storm of rose petals and glowing light.
The girl looks on blankly as petals scatter across the field and the atmosphere shifts.
Beatrice notes that Vincent survived while Chloe asks if the girl is actually a demon.
Beatrice compares the powerful priest to an angel after witnessing the destruction of the demons.
Beatrice looks directly at the mysterious child and asks for her true identity. The silent girl responds by stretching her arms out wide in a T-shaped pose.
Chloe and Beatrice try to decipher if she is making a cross or an alphabet letter.
Without a word, a large hand reaches out and grabs the girl by her shirt.
Vincent roughly stuffs the small, silent girl into the large brown briefcase he is carrying.
Vincent slams the lid shut, completely sealing the mysterious child inside the heavy leather case. Vincent mentions contacting the Vatican while Chloe accuses him of acting like a common kidnapper. Vincent carries the briefcase away, determined to prevent the child from wandering off again. Chloe screams in terror as the girl suddenly reappears outside the case, seemingly teleporting.
Chloe complains that the child is a nuisance while Vincent remains focused on the mission.
The perspective shifts to a massive industrial city sprawling across a desolate, hazy landscape.
Two thugs wait in a dark, narrow alleyway filled with trash and old posters.
A massive, muscular man in a floral shirt walks toward thugs, sipping coffee.
The thugs, one wearing sunglasses and braids, watch the approaching stranger with suspicion.
The big man wonders if he was too harsh while a thug calls out.
The braided thug informs the stranger that he has trespassed into Red Faction territory.
The big man apologizes for the intrusion, explaining he is looking for a specific person.
The man smiles broadly and asks to be excused if there is no further trouble.
The braided thug stops the man by pressing a shiny revolver against his broad chest.
The thug mocks the man's expensive coffee and asks why he is in this eye.
The larger thug warns his partner not to scare the man into a messy actor.
The thug holding the gun suddenly pulls the trigger, much to the surprise of his partner. A point-blank shot is fired, but the massive man remains standing, completely unfazed and unharmed.
The man's coffee cup falls to the ground, spilling its dark contents across the pavement. The larger thug is shocked and yells at his partner for actually firing the weapon.
The panicked gunman desperately claims that the target himself was the one who pulled the trigger.
An eye widens in shock as a low, rumbling sound echoes through the dark alleyway. Vincent mocks his opponents, calling them worthless trash while his glowing red eyes pierce the darkness.
Vincent brutally lifts a man into the air, causing a massive explosion of blood and gore. The large, bald thug collapses onto the ground in sheer terror after witnessing the sudden violence.
Standing over the bloody remains, Vincent coldly informs the surviving thugs that their time is up.
Skeletal winged demons receive orders to search the vehicle and secure a mysterious vital key immediately.
Vincent's expression hardens into a look of intense focus as he prepares for the next confrontation.
The terrified thug stammers in disbelief as Vincent looms over him with a threatening, silent presence.
Vincent offers to keep the trembling thug company, flashing a wide, unsettling grin that hides his intent.
A promotional banner features a sharp-eyed exorcist alongside details for upcoming chapters and staff credits.
Two dark birds fly across the cloudy night sky beneath the glow of a crescent moon.
The scene shifts to the isolated church standing silently against the vast, dark expanse of night.
The monstrous skeletal birds land on the ground, their presence casting a dark shadow over the landscape.
The demons conclude that the tracks have been erased by whoever successfully retrieved the mysterious key. A close-up of the demonic bird's mask-like face reveals its intense focus on the task ahead.
Despite the missing tracks, the demon uses its sense of smell to follow a glowing trail.
The perspective shifts to a sprawling city illuminated by artificial lights under the dark night sky.
A large blue bus travels through the city streets, passing under bright neon signs and buildings.
Beatrice instructs someone to keep a safety strap on to ensure their protection during the journey. Vincent walks through a parking lot carrying supplies, offering a brief word of approval to Beatrice.
Vincent hands a bag of food to Beatrice, noting that she has not eaten in days.
Vincent orders Beatrice to investigate the child tomorrow while she notices his odd choice of packaging.
Beatrice asks if she is finally permitted to finish her duties for the night and depart.
Vincent agrees to let her go, warning that staying near him for too long is dangerous.
A discarded paper bag lies on the pavement as Vincent walks away into the dark night. The city street blurs as a sudden, high-speed movement cuts through the quiet, nightly atmosphere.
Beatrice sprints away with a look of pure relief, celebrating her sudden moment of absolute freedom.
Beatrice shouts with joy, vowing to never encounter the priest again as she flees the area.
Vincent comments on Beatrice's haste while Chloe asks if the donut he holds is for her.
The group walks past tall, illuminated apartment buildings as they navigate the quiet city streets together.
Chloe admires the neatness of Vincent's residence while leading the silent white-haired girl by the hand.
Vincent informs the group that they have not reached their destination yet and leads them onward. Vincent warns the group to avoid the back of the building, hinting at a hidden danger.
Vincent enters a dark basement, describing it as a dangerous place inhabited only by the lawless.
Chloe follows Vincent down the narrow concrete stairs and into the dimly lit underground hideout doorway.
Chloe and the girl pause at the entrance, taking in the state of the room before them.
Vincent acknowledges the poor condition of his living quarters, mocking Chloe's possible expectations of luxury.
Vincent begins to reflect on recent events while preparing to eat a burger in his room.
Vincent sits at his desk, remembering how the other priests failed their mission against the possessed. Vincent questions if the demons were simply too powerful as Chloe interacts with the talking skull.
Vincent concludes that the priests were defeated because they had lost their vital protective power of faith.
Vincent notes that without faith, even the most powerful masters are reduced to ordinary, vulnerable humans.
Vincent explains how faith normally serves as a barrier preventing demonic entities from entering the world.
A terrifying vision shows the city consumed by flames, predicting a future where the world becomes hell.
Vincent emphasizes the urgency of finding the mastermind while the girl curiously inspects her new burger.
Vincent warns the demon and its allies to cooperate before he is forced to use violence. The defiant skull mocks Vincent's threats as the little girl playfully balances food on her head. Vincent hopes the skull keeps its defiant attitude, suggesting he has a painful plan for it. Vincent's cold, calculated gaze falls upon a small object as he prepares to take further action.
The skull panics internally, wishing for a way to escape back to hell before Vincent acts.
A voice from outside calls out for their teacher, seeking a response from within the room.
Chloe notices the arrival of another guest while standing against the brick wall of the room.
Vincent holds a finger to his lips, signaling for absolute silence as he prepares for a confrontation.
Vincent explains his preference for meeting clients directly as he focuses on the approaching potential threat.
Vincent draws his handgun and prepares for battle as a heavy knocking sound echoes through the door. Vincent peers through the door's peephole to identify the intruders waiting on the other side. Two skeletal winged demons stand outside the door, demanding that it be opened immediately without further delay.
One of the monstrous demons smashes through the door with a powerful, glowing punch that shatters wood.
Vincent reacts quickly, firing multiple shots at the bird-masked entities as they invade his small living space. A demon retaliates by swinging a jagged blade, cutting through the air in a blur of movement. Vincent is knocked back, losing his weapon as the demon's attack forces him into a defensive position. Vincent braces himself as the demon prepares to deliver a final blow in the heat of battle. Vincent delivers a powerful kick to the demon's face, using his strength to repel the sudden assault. The impact of the kick is devastating, shattering the demon's mask and causing a massive spray of blood.
Vincent grabs the demon's arm, struggling to regain control of the situation amidst the chaotic, bloody fight.
Blood splatters across the scene as the brutal physical struggle between the priest and the demon continues.
The talking skull watches the fight from a desk, expressing excitement as the situation turns increasingly violent. The demons recognize the skull as a subordinate of Mill and demand to be taken along with them. One of the demons suddenly snatches the silent white-haired girl and pulls her away from the group. The demon announces that the target has been secured and prepares to retreat with the captured child.
The skeletal entity flees into the darkness, carrying the mysterious girl away as the others call out.
The bird-masked demon leaps down a stairwell, escaping the underground hideout with its prize in hand.
The creature takes flight into the night sky, soaring over the illuminated city buildings with the girl. Chloe stands alone in the wreckage of the room, looking toward the wall where the struggle ended. Vincent staggers toward Chloe, coughing blood from a massive, fatal-looking wound through his chest and torso. Vincent explains that demons possess superior senses for tracking and locating things that ordinary humans simply cannot. Vincent reaches into a desk drawer to retrieve a small, functional device despite his severe physical injuries.
Vincent holds up a radio transmitter while Chloe looks on, confused by the purpose of the electronic device.
Vincent reveals a determined expression, indicating that the device is working exactly as he originally intended.
Chloe realizes that the safety strap she placed on the girl earlier was actually a tracking device.
The white-haired girl sits quietly as she is carried away, a small electronic tracking device visible on her leg.
Vincent checks the receiver's signals to confirm it is working properly and tracking the girl's exact location.
Chloe remains silent and worried while Vincent focuses entirely on his plan to recover the missing child.
Vincent, now shirtless and covered in scars and blood, punches the skull for its earlier annoying defiance.
Vincent explains that by tracking these demons, they will eventually be led to a much more powerful leader. Vincent opens a hidden trapdoor in the floor, revealing a secret passage leading deeper into his hideout. The passage reveals a sophisticated monitoring station and a massive collection of high-powered weapons and gear. Vincent enters his extensive private armory, walking past rows of monitors and racks of heavy firearms. A wooden rack holds several handguns of various calibers alongside drawers filled with rows of ammunition. Vincent methodically loads a fresh magazine with bullets, preparing himself for the upcoming hunt for the girl. Vincent chambers a round in a powerful gold-plated handgun, his body showing numerous battle scars and tattoos. Vincent slides the heavy weapon into a leather holster at his waist, finalizing his preparations for the mission. Vincent dons his long priest's coat, briefly revealing a large, elaborate cross tattoo covering his entire back. Vincent buttons his collar with steady hands, transforming back into his formal and dangerous persona as a priest. A wall displays several specialized heavy leather cases, each likely containing different equipment for various combat scenarios. Vincent's face remains cold and focused as he prepares to leave his hideout and begin the chase. Vincent selects one of the large cases from the wall,
grabbing the handle to take it with him. Vincent walks out of his hideout, carrying the heavy briefcase and radiating a powerful, intimidating aura of determination. Chloe watches Vincent's departure with concern, asking if he is truly prepared for the dangerous journey ahead.
Beatrice warns that being alone is dangerous while sitting against a brick wall.
Vincent listens to Beatrice's warning as he stands in his dimly lit hideout.
Beatrice tosses a golden ornate dagger across the room with a swift motion.
Vincent advises Beatrice to keep the weapon to protect herself during the coming conflict. Beatrice holds the dagger firmly, reflecting on her role in the upcoming mission. Vincent gestures toward a heavy metal briefcase, indicating he has his own equipment.
Vincent asserts his self-reliance, stating that he is capable of handling the task alone.
An electronic tracking device glows green, signaling that the child's location is being monitored.
Vincent drives through the dark city streets, keeping the glowing tracking receiver on his dashboard. The car travels down a quiet highway as the hunt for the demons continues. Vincent's vehicle approaches a roadside diner illuminated by bright lights under the night sky.
Vincent remains focused and expressionless as he prepares to confront the kidnappers inside.
Bloody handprints cover the diner's windows, hinting at the violence that has occurred within. Inside the diner, bird-masked demons stand over a dead employee amidst a scene of carnage. Vincent enters the diner and asks the monsters if they were waiting for his arrival. The two bird-masked demons turn to face the priest with predatory intensity. A demon claims to have smelled him and expresses surprise that his previous attack failed. Vincent dismisses the demon's claim, suggesting the creature made a fatal error in judgment. The demons mock Vincent's arrogance before addressing a mysterious figure they call Lord Mill. Lord Mill sits at a booth with his subordinates and the captive white-haired Pearl.
Lord Mill calmly drinks tea, ordering his minions to capture Vincent instead of killing him.
The white-haired girl peeks from behind a booth, witnessing the tension in the room.
The demons convey Lord Mill's command, ordering Vincent to surrender and sit before their leader. Vincent looks down at the bloodied corpse of the innocent diner employee on the floor. The dead man's face is frozen in shock, covered in splatters of fresh blood. A cold, vengeful determination settles over Vincent as he processes the scene of the massacre. Vincent admits his previous lack of foresight led to the unnecessary death of these people. Vincent kneels beside the victim, expressing regret for his earlier decision to let the demons go. Vincent closes the eyes of the deceased employee, mourning the collateral damage of his plan. The bird-masked demon is confused by Vincent's claim of having let them previously.
The demons mock Vincent's sanity, questioning if he suffered a head injury during their fight.
Vincent slams his heavy metal briefcase onto the checkered floor with an audible thud. Vincent steps forward, declaring that he has changed his mind about the rules of engagement. Vincent prepares to fight properly this time, adjusting his sleeves as his power begins to surge. A demon lunges at Vincent, declaring that he is no longer worth talking to. Vincent intercepts the demon's attack with inhuman speed and precision as the fight begins. The large bald man at Mill's table reacts with shock at Vincent's sudden display of power.
The terrified waitress watches from behind the counter as the battle erupts in the diner.
The woman's eyes widen in horror at the brutal violence unfolding before her. Vincent delivers a devastating strike that sends both bird-masked demons flying across the room. Vincent wields a golden weapon, generating a powerful shockwave that shatters everything in its path. The demons are slammed into the floor by the sheer force of Vincent's holy assault. Vincent stands over the fallen entities, questioning their ability to understand simple human warnings. Vincent's eyes glow with divine intensity as he looks down at his defeated opponents. The demons hiss in defiance, glaring at the priest with their glowing red eyes. The demons scramble to their feet, preparing to launch a desperate counterattack. Vincent unleashes a beam of pure golden light, piercing through the air toward the demons. Vincent blocks a clawed strike, his expression remaining cold and unwavering amidst the chaos. Vincent's hand, wreathed in golden energy, catches the demon's blade as it strikes. Vincent ensnares the demon's arm with a glowing chain, sealing his victory in the skirmish. The bird-masked demon mocks Vincent's human limitations, claiming his speed and strength have limits. Vincent responds with a lightning-fast punch wreathed in glowing golden energy. The demons recoil in surprise as Vincent launches a sudden high-speed aerial assault. A powerful blow shatters the demon's mask, sending blood and debris flying. Vincent delivers a heavy overhead strike that slams into the monster with divine force. The demon stares in stunned silence as its defensive stance is utterly broken. Another devastating punch impacts the creature's face, causing a massive spray of blood.
Vincent lands gracefully as golden energy continues to crackle around his hands.
Vincent holds his blood-soaked rosary over the fallen enemy, asserting his holy dominance. Vincent questions if that was their best effort and challenges them to attack again. The two bird-masked demons merge into a singular, horrific mass of feathers and heads. The massive avian abomination towers over the priest, threatening to tear him apart. Vincent calls his opponents fools as he prepares a final, explosive holy technique. Vincent leaps through the air, delivering a powerful kick to the multi-headed demon's face. A brilliant explosion of golden light illuminates the diner as the final blow connects. The waitress screams in terror as the massive demon is slammed into the wall.
Vincent stands tall, his back turned as he prepares to face the true leader.
Vincent delivers a brutal final strike that crushes the demon's skull against the floor. The bald subordinate watches the display of overwhelming power with a grim, tense expression.
Lord Mel watches the violence with an unsettlingly calm and predatory red-eyed gaze.
Thick blood splatters the walls of the diner, marking the end of the skirmish.
The waitress trembles uncontrollably on the kitchen floor, overwhelmed by the supernatural carnage.
Lord Mil's red eye narrows, focusing intensely on the priest who defeated his minions.
Lord Mel observes that a hunting dog was sent to confront him instead of a person.
Lord Mel offers to buy Vincent a cup of coffee and have a civil chat.
Vincent stares back with cold, unwavering intensity, his face marked by battle scars.
Lord Mel insists there is no hidden agenda and repeats his invitation to talk.
Dark coffee pours into a clean white cup, signaling a brief pause in the violence.
2 cups of steaming coffee sit on the table between the 2 powerful adversaries. The waitress nervously serves the coffee, begging the group to enjoy their changs. Vincent orders the terrified waitress to leave the diner and head home immediately. The woman hesitates to leave, but Vincent's stern presence offers her no choice. Vincent softly reassures the waitress that she is safe and should depart at once. The waitress flees into the rainy night as the white-haired girl watches her pow. The white-haired girl sits quietly as Vincent prepares to speak with the demon leader.
Lord Mel casually asks the priest to remind him of his full name.
The muscular demon leader lifts his cup, his floral shirt contrasting with the bloody scene.
Vincent identifies himself as Vincent Burns, clarifying that he is a demonologist, not a priest.
Lord Mel questions why he wears religious clothing if he is not a true cleric.
Lord Mel mockingly asks if Vincent is a member of some obscure religious cult.
Lord Mel laughs off his own joke, attempting to lighten the heavy atmosphere.
Lord Mel claims that Vincent possesses the rare predatory eyes typical of a high-level demon.
Lord Mel compares Vincent's intense gaze to a Doberman guarding a door with lethal intent.
Lord Mel proposes an offer to the demonologist to avoid further unnecessary conflict.
Lord Mel reveals that America is destined to be transformed into a living hell.
Lord Mel advises Vincent to abandon the country and seek safety elsewhere.
Vincent argues that fleeing is useless because the scale of the threat is too large.
Lord Mel counters that leaving would at least provide a few years of peace.
Lord Mel suggests that the best course of action is to stop his plan here. Lord Mel warns that his own death would not be enough to stop the impending catastrophe. Vincent sets down his cup with a sharp clink, signaling the end of the talk. Vincent rejects the offer, asserting that he pays for his own drinks to avoid owing money to filthy sources.
Lord Mel leans in with a mocking grin, questioning where the priest keeps his money during the hunt.
Vincent flips a coin into the air with a swift motion, his expression turning cold.
The adversaries sit across from one another, a final quiet moment before the inevitable violence begins. Vincent declares that the money was earned from hunting demons just like the one sitting before him. The coin spins rapidly on the table, serving as a countdown for the battle about to begin. Lord Mel flashes a predatory grin, admitting that he was actually looking forward to a chance to fight.
Lord Mel lunges across the table with terrifying speed, ending the conversation with a sudden strike. Lord Mel shatters the booth with a devastating blow as Vincent narrowly evades the opening assault.
Lord Mel's single red eye narrows, locking onto his opponent with an intense and predatory focus.
A look of sharp surprise crosses the demon's face as he senses a hidden threat approaching.
Vincent reveals a concealed firearm, his steady hands showing no signs of hesitation or fear.
Lord Mel laughs at the priest's tactics, noting that he possesses an unexpectedly underhanded side to his personality.
A gunshot rings through the diner as a bullet strikes Lord Mel directly in the forehead.
Vincent stands over his opponent, coldly asking the demon if he truly expected to receive fair play.
The white-haired girl watches the scene with wide, shocked eyes as the violence escalates nearby.
Vincent takes the girl's hand and commands her to leave with him immediately, moving toward the exit.
Vincent stops abruptly as a surge of malevolent energy radiates from the demon he shot. Lord Mel lets out a groan of dark satisfaction as holy energy begins to incinerate his body.
Lord Mel observes that Vincent mixed something weird into the bullets as the spent casings clatter nearby.
The demon leader's skin cracks with intense heat as he notes that the holy rounds genuinely burn.
The front of the diner is obliterated in a massive explosion, sending glass into the night. Vincent is thrown onto the hood of his car, gasping as he recovers from the blast.
Lord Mel emerges from the wreckage, marveling that no one has survived being shot in the head.
Vincent immediately opens fire again, determined to stop the burning monster before it can advance.
Lord Mel charges through the gunfire with relentless speed, his body glowing with internal fire. The priest continues his rapid assault as the demon leader shrugs off the holy bullets.
Lord Mel stomps his foot onto Vincent's metal briefcase, pinning the equipment to the asphalt.
Vincent is forced to leap back, surprised by the demon's sudden and overwhelming physical power.
Vincent levels his pistol for another shot, his eyes reflecting the glow of the enemy. Lord Mel's massive charred hand reaches out and catches the priest's weapon with a grip.
With a brutal crunch, the demon leader crushes the firearm into pieces, rendering it useless.
Lord Mill towers over Vincent with a menacing grin, his heat warping the surrounding air.
Vincent delivers a powerful energy-infused punch that connects with Lord Mill's face with a flash.
Another devastating strike impacts the demon, sending sparks flying as the two continue their struggle. Lord Mill absorbs the punishment and mutters that he finally understands the true nature of the battle. The demon leader confidently asserts that he has figured out what Vincent's real weapon actually is.
Lord Mill stands tall in the parking lot while Vincent prepares a massive holy blade.
Vincent swings a large golden scythe in a wide lethal arc, aiming to end the fight. Lord Mill dodges the massive weapon with incredible speed, the blade cutting through empty air.
The demon leader seizes Vincent's arm, stopping the priest's momentum with his overwhelming supernatural strength.
Vincent gasps in pain as he finds himself trapped in the demon's powerful, crushing grasp.
Lord Mill slams the priest into the ground with enough force to shatter the pavement.
The demon's fingers dig into Vincent's face as he prepares to deliver a final blow.
A massive explosion of light and fire erupts from the impact, consuming the immediate vicinity.
A towering pillar of flame reaches toward the dark sky, signaling the peak of conflict.
Lord Mill's glowing eye stares through the fire, his skin charred and glowing with energy.
The demon leader's face is illuminated by the inferno as he stands triumphant amidst wreckage.
A sharp blade is shown piercing through the darkness, signaling that the battle continues on.
Lord Mill mocks Vincent's efforts, asserting that the current damage is insufficient to kill him.
A massive explosion of radiant light and destructive force obliterates the immediate surroundings in the diner.
Shards of glass and debris fly through the air as the secondary impact of the blast connects. Vincent is thrown backward onto the checkered diner floor, smoke rising from his battered and scorched body.
Lord Mill stands tall, acknowledging Vincent's recovery ability and questioning how to kill a man like him. The demon leader steps through a gaping hole in the diner wall, returning to the scene. A sturdy metal briefcase lies open on the floor, revealing a mysterious fur-lined interior meant for gear.
Vincent reaches into the container, his silhouette displaying the numerous holy scars covering his muscular frame.
Lord Mill watches with interest, complimenting the impressive design of the heavy weaponry Vincent has finally revealed.
Vincent reveals a massive cross-adorned hand cannon, his face partially transformed by the intense supernatural strain.
Vincent coldly corrects his opponent, identifying the large and specialized holy firearm as a powerful hand cannon.
The priest pulls the trigger, unleashing a devastating blast of concentrated golden energy from the massive weapon.
Lord Mill is consumed by the direct hit, the sheer force of the holy blast overwhelming him.
A vertical pillar of fire and energy erupts, cutting through the ceiling of the burning diner.
The golden light completely engulfs the battlefield, signaling the end of the demon's current physical form. Molten material drips from the ceiling as the intense heat of the battle begins melting the structure.
The brilliant golden energy persists, incinerating the remains of the diner in its overwhelming holy wake.
Lord Mill kneels amidst the smoke, his body charred black and his clothes reduced to rags.
The demon leader stands up, his back to the camera as he prepares for a transformation.
Vincent warns that he knows this won't kill him and tells the demon to stop acting tough.
Lord Mill admits that getting hit by the cannon hurts like hell and mocks Vincent's bravado.
Lord Mill observes that Vincent's human appearance is failing as the demonic power takes a heavy toll.
The demon leader's body erupts in a fresh surge of hellfire, his true nature becoming visible. Flames consume the interior of the establishment, leaving only wreckage behind in the battle's wake. Burning embers and intense fire spread rapidly across the floor, further destroying the once quiet diner. A massive, armored foot stomps onto the pavement, signaling the arrival of a new, terrifying threat. Lord Mill stands fully transformed into a towering, demonic knight clad in heavy, flame-wreathed plate armor. Vincent aims his cannon at the behemoth, questioning if the armored giant is the demon's true form. The armored demon recommends that the priest stop using his weapon before things escalate much further. Lord Mill explains that blood hotter than hellfire now flows through his veins in this powerful form. The demon leader warns that the key might burn up if the priest is not more careful. Vincent remains silent, his intense gaze fixed on the monstrous enemy standing directly in front of him. The priest prepares for the next move as the armored giant looms over him in the fire.
Lord Mill tells Vincent not to feel sorry, promising they will meet again as long as the key exists.
The demon leader promises to set up a more interesting game for their next unavoidable encounter. A final explosion of fire and dark energy radiates from the armored knight as he prepares to depart. Lord Mill vanishes into the inferno, his physical presence fading away as the battle comes to an end. A skeletal, flaming horse emerges from the shadows, ready to carry the demon leader away from the scene. Lord Mill mentions that the other two judges have already found the remaining pieces of the key. Lord Mill warns that the world will end when the key pieces unite and tells Vincent to work harder. The demon leader gallops into the night atop his flaming steed, leaving the burning diner far behind.
Vincent stands alone in the wreckage of the diner, staring into the flames with a grim expression.
The scene shifts to a peaceful day at the local sheriff's office under a bright, sunny sky.
A blonde-haired officer with a cheerful expression smiles warmly at her colleagues in the busy station.
Telephones ring incessantly as the officers manage a sudden influx of paperwork and reported criminal activity.
The dark-haired officer asks her blonde-haired colleague if there has been much work since the morning. The dark-haired officer reports a series of arson cases where dozens of buildings were destroyed in one night.
The dark-haired officer claims she is also monitoring a suspicious arson suspect as she smiles at her partner. The dark-haired woman bites her lip with a predatory look, revealing a hidden and perhaps dangerous personality.
The dark-haired officer wonders why God made them meet and suggests they should just run away together.
Chloe reflects on how shocked the white-haired girl must have been during yesterday's intense events.
In the sheriff's office, a bald officer reassures the girl that they will return her to her parents. Chloe tells the child to trust the adults as the bald officer reacts in sudden, sharp surprise.
Chloe panics as she tells Camila that the suspect she is monitoring couldn't possibly be who she thinks.
Vincent sits silently in a jail cell, his muscular torso covered in jagged, glowing holy scars.
Chloe stands at the bars frantically questioning Vincent about the reported arson cases and his current situation.
Vincent dismisses the trouble as frequent, while Chloe stresses over the extreme gravity of the current circumstances.
Chloe explains that Vincent remains under heavy suspicion and she must continue monitoring him closely for now.
Vincent suggests leaving before the sheriff arrives, while Chloe promises to handle explaining everything to the team.
The mustached sheriff and Camila arrive at the door, catching Chloe as she attempts to help Vincent.
Chloe gasps in fear at the sheriff's sudden appearance while Vincent stands calmly behind her in the cell.
The sheriff demands to know why Vincent was at the crime scene despite Chloe's standing orders.
The sheriff looms over the pair, sternly commanding Chloe and Vincent to explain their recent whereabouts and actions.
Chloe breaks into a nervous sweat, frantically wondering what she should do to resolve the situation.
Chloe decides to trust her longtime boss instead of risking a violent, destructive breakout by the powerful Vincent.
Chloe begins explaining that the recent family murder case was actually the brutal work of supernatural demons.
The group stands in the cell block as Chloe continues her unlikely explanation regarding demonic activity.
Chloe elaborates on the details of the incident while the camera focuses on the empty, cold jail cell.
Camila clarifies the story, asking if Vincent was actually catching demons instead of murdering innocent people.
The sheriff remains skeptical, asking if Chloe joined a cult and if she expects him to believe her.
The sheriff orders Camila to arrest Chloe, leaving the dark-haired officer lamenting her terrible day and best friend's betrayal.
Chloe panics and clutches her hair while Vincent observes that even she didn't fully believe the truth initially. A mysterious man in a trench coat and fedora arrives at the door, announcing that time has been bought. Vincent confidently asserts that the arrival of this new ally will finally solve their current legal predicament.
The newcomer introduces himself and declares that Vincent is neither a murderer nor an arsonist, requesting a private talk. The sheriff questions the man's identity, stating that he won't let anyone go regardless of Vatican involvement.
The man in the fedora remains calm as he presents a professional business card to the skeptical sheriff.
The sheriff and Camila stare at the card in shocked silence as they realize the newcomer's true authority.
The card identifies the man as Special Agent Malcolm R. Thatcher of the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
The sun shines over the quiet sheriff station as the immediate conflict within the jail cells subsides.
Vincent stands outside in the daylight, stretching his massive frame into a tight, temporary gray t-shirt.
A nearby voice notes that their own clothes would never fit Vincent's enormous and muscular physical build.
Malcolm notes that they must get tailored clothes for Vincent before moving forward with their next objective.
Chloe questions Vincent about his connection to an FBI agent as the group gathers outside the station.
Malcolm clarifies that he is not an acquaintance but is simply fulfilling his mission by cleaning up the mess.
Vincent realizes that Malcolm's presence signifies that the Vatican has finally begun taking active measures once again. Malcolm bluntly informs Vincent that the world's future cannot be left to a fraud like him. Chloe is bewildered by the mention of the Vatican, having previously assumed Malcolm was a standard FBI agent.
Chloe stares at the stoic Malcolm as the two lock eyes in the parking lot of the station.
Vincent reassures Chloe that the sheriff can be trusted despite the current tension within their small group.
Malcolm suggests moving to a more private location as they stand in front of the public sheriff's station.
Malcolm asks Chloe to join them, mentioning a specific job he wants her to take on for him.
The scene shifts to a pair of towering skyscrapers reaching into the bright blue sky above the city.
Inside a lavish darkwood library, an ornate desk sits prepared for a meeting between powerful figures.
A large man with dark hair stands under a chandelier, his muscular frame silhouetted against the grand room.
Lord Mill returns in a rougher human form, greeting his companions with a wide, arrogant grin.
A woman in a red dress tells Lord Mill to stop shouting since they can all hear him perfectly.
A blonde woman in a red gown questions why Lord Mill has returned from his mission empty-handed.
A man reading a newspaper finds the situation strange as Lord Mill stands nearby in the opulent study.
A seated man notes his plan was perfect and asks Lord Mill what unexpected variable caused him to fail.
Lord Mill explains he abandoned the mission after a demonologist interrupted his progress.
The blonde woman in red questions how Mill, the strongest of their group, was successfully halted.
Gazing thoughtfully, the blonde woman wonders if their opponent is the specific person they discussed earlier.
Looking toward her companion, she confirms if he means the human mentioned in their initial plan. The man in sunglasses adjusts his frames and identifies their troublesome adversary as Vincent Burns. With a cold glare, the leader reminds Lord Mill of his explicit warning to avoid fighting Vincent.
Lord Mill scratches his head with a skeptical expression, questioning if such a warning was ever given.
The leader berates Mill for missing a vital opportunity to win and failing to eliminate the target.
The blonde woman asks why this human named Burns is significant enough to warrant such serious discussion.
The man in the suit explains that Vincent was once an unremarkable human easily killed by demons.
A flashback reveals a younger Vincent standing before a burning inferno, transformed into an avatar of hatred.
Leaves drift across a vast, bright blue sky as the scene transitions into a peaceful memory.
Lush green hills and tall grass sway gently under a clear, sunlit sky in the countryside.
Cows graze peacefully in a bright meadow while a young calf frolics through the tall grass.
A younger Vincent works diligently in the field, hammering wooden posts to repair a farm fence.
Vincent pauses his labor to wipe sweat from his brow, exhaling a deep breath of exhaustion.
Sunlight filters through the window of a study, illuminating a shelf filled with various scientific books.
Vincent walks through his comfortable home, carrying his bag after a long day of outdoor work.
He peers into the bedroom and spots his wife sitting on the bed during her morning routine.
Vincent enters the room with a warm smile and asks his wife if she has just woken.
Evelyn Burns, Vincent's wife and an accomplished scientist and teacher, smiles brightly from her seat on the bed. Vincent playfully avoids a hug from Evelyn, noting that his work clothes are currently too dirty for contact. While eating breakfast, Evelyn asks Vincent if he successfully finished the repairs on the pasture fence. Vincent explains he fixed the fence before the rain and asks why she neglected her own invention.
Evelyn recalls demonstrating her specialized fence pile driver machine in the middle of a sunny pasture.
Vincent warns her the machine seems difficult to handle, but Evelyn confidently insists she can manage it.
The heavy machine malfunctions violently, erupting in clouds of dirt and smoke as Evelyn struggles to control it.
Vincent is knocked backward onto the grass as the powerful vibration from the failing machine shakes the ground.
Back at the dining table, Evelyn looks away with an awkward expression while remembering her failed mechanical demonstration.
Vincent places his hand on a box and lists Evelyn's exhausting daily responsibilities as an inventor and teacher. Standing at the kitchen window, Vincent suggests that Evelyn should consider reducing her heavy daily workload.
Evelyn laughs off his concern and boasts that no one in the countryside is better with machines.
Vincent agrees she is the best, but argues her creative mind is too valuable to be wasted on chores. Vincent's expression turns serious as he prepares to share important news with his wife during their morning.
Evelyn stops drinking her coffee and stares at her husband, sensing the sudden gravity of his tone.
Vincent gestures emphatically while stating they need to focus more on their shared future together immediately. Evelyn is frozen in shock as Vincent reveals the life-changing news that they are going to be parents. Vincent stresses that her health is now critical for the baby's sake and urges her to rest more.
Evelyn prepares to leave for her job at the school, ending their conversation as she heads up.
Vincent follows her toward the front door and offers to drive her to the school that morning.
Evelyn politely declines the ride and takes her belongings, insisting she is capable of driving herself today.
Vincent calls out a final warning for her to stay focused and return home safely after her classes. After she leaves, Vincent sighs and regrets his inability to speak more gently during their important conversation.
Vincent is startled as a hand reaches from behind and grabs his shoulder in the quiet hallway.
Evelyn hugs Vincent tightly and asks him not to hate her for her ambition and busy lifestyle. Vincent's powerful arms wrap around his wife as he lifts her off the floor in a warm embrace. Embraced in the golden morning light, Vincent acknowledges that every child deserves the education his wife provides. The sun sets behind the mountains as Vincent looks forward to discussing their future plans later that evening. A violent bolt of lightning tears through a dark, rainy sky, signaling a tragic shift in the narrative. Rain pours over the silent city buildings at night, reflecting the cold and somber reality of the present.
Rain lashes against the pavement as two figures flee through the dark, deserted city streets.
A man in a raincoat wipes water from his face while struggling against the storm. The man warns that the countryside is too dangerous, but the driver insists on going.
The hooded figure warns of bad flooding and urges the other man to find safety.
The silent hooded figure stands immobile as the heavy downpour drenches his long, dark cloak. A man in a flannel shirt is startled by a sudden scream from the bedroom. Evelyn groans in agonizing pain as she clutches her stomach while lying in her bed. Vincent explains that she was perfectly fine before suddenly beginning to suffer in this way.
He notes with desperation that the emergency medicine is failing to provide her any relief.
Vincent notes the phone is dead and determines they must go directly to the hospital. A heavy truck sits waiting in the dimly lit garage while the rain pours outside.
Vincent curses his luck and wonders how both of their vehicles failed to start tonight.
He considers the 2-hour drive and realizes carrying his wife through the storm is impossible.
A sudden, heavy thumping sound from outside the garage startles Vincent, making him look back. A green-tinted vision shows a cow being brutally struck down by an unseen violent force.
Another cow stands frozen in the rain as the thumping sounds continue to echo around.
Cows are slaughtered by an invisible presence, blood splattering across the dark and wet field. One remaining cow looks up into the rain just before meeting its own grisly end.
The field is littered with cow carcasses, their blood mixing with the heavy evening rain. Lightning flashes over the farmhouse as a terrifying realization begins to dawn on the husband.
Standing out in the rain, Vincent calls for Evelyn with a look of growing concern. Vincent enters the dark room with a lantern, the door creaking as he searches for Evelyn. He spots Evelyn by the window and asks if she is feeling okay after her pitting.
Evelyn keeps her back turned to him, staring silently out at the rain-streaked window pane. Vincent is shocked when Evelyn suddenly claims that she actually feels great in this moment.
She turns slightly, describing the feeling as refreshing, while a subtle, eerie smile begins forming.
The figure reveals the air on Earth is refreshing as her face distorts into shadows.
Vincent is paralyzed with fear, staring at the monstrous transformation occurring right before his eyes.
He screams her name as a dark, shadowy spirit begins to manifest and loom over. Vincent stands alone in the room, his lantern casting long, flickering shadows against the walls. He shouts for Evelyn again, searching the darkness for any sign of his wife's presence. Vincent turns his lantern toward the corners of the room, desperately seeking an answer to horror.
He lunges forward, shouting her name while trying to confront the entity mimicking his wife.
The lantern shatters on the wooden floor, instantly igniting a fire that spreads very quickly. Flames erupt as Vincent struggles against the supernatural strength of the entity wearing Evelyn's form.
He gasps her name while the creature's hands tighten around his throat in the fire.
A mark glows on his arm as the entity questions if he still has feelings.
The demonic woman stands amidst the growing fire, her eyes glowing with a sinister light.
Vincent demands to know who the creature is and orders it to answer him immediately.
The possessed figure remains silent, watching the flames dance as she prepares her next move.
Vincent roars in rage, demanding to know what the creature has done to his wife.
With a swift movement, the entity throws Vincent across the burning room and onto floor.
The demon mockingly notes his deep love for his wife as he lies gasping out. She leans in close, her shadow face obscuring her features as she observes her prey.
Dark substance drips from her mouth as she prepares to offer him a soul-binding deal. Vincent yells for her to stop as he desperately tries to fight off the entity.
The entity pauses, asking Vincent if he truly wants to save his wife from fate.
Vincent stares back with a mix of terror and determination, listening to the monster's proposal.
The demon demands total obedience and commands Vincent Burns to become her servant to save Evelyn.
The chapter concludes with a credits page listing the production staff behind the dramatic comic.
The production team announces they are currently recruiting translators and editors for upcoming projects. A desolate, fiery landscape stretches out under a dark and smoldering sky in hell.
Grotesque, multi-limbed creatures gather within a chaotic and burning inferno of the underworld. One of the distorted demons announces that the preparations for their departure are finally finished.
A title card identifies the presence of the formidable and high-ranking Great Judge Ob.
A massive, skeletal entity with many limbs stands imposing against the fiery, glowing horizon.
The bottom of a long, frayed red cloak hangs over the scorched and burning ground.
A tall, slender black neck rises, surrounded by dark, floating particles of ash and debris.
The towering, multi-armed silhouette stands atop a jagged precipice overlooking the vast, hellish landscape. A cataclysmic eruption of brilliant light and fire consumes the entire scene in an instant. A powerful pillar of golden light strikes down into a swirling, violent vortex of fire.
The skeletal demon explains his failed past attempt to possess a world leader on Earth.
In a burning room, the possessed woman lifts Vincent off the floor by his throat.
The shadowy figure reflects on the absolute absurdity of the situation as flames surround her.
The demon laments being too weak to possess a single human and losing his subordinates. The entity suspects that a higher power from above must have interfered with his plans.
A solitary golden key floats in the darkness, illuminated by a warm and divine glow.
Vincent angrily demands to know what the creature actually wants from him in this moment.
The shadowy figure looms over Vincent, her eyes glowing with a menacing and eerie light.
A dense, glowing red mist swirls as the fire intensifies within the crumbling farmhouse room. The broken lantern lies on the floor, leaking oil and fueling the rapidly spreading flames.
The entity mockingly suggests that Vincent should be reunited with his deceased family members soon.
The creature offers Vincent a unique and life-changing opportunity to escape his current desperate fate.
The demon presents a choice between dying in the fire or accepting his mysterious proposal.
The entity tempts Vincent with the possibility of returning to his peaceful and happy past.
Vincent stands silently, overwhelmed by the impossible choice being forced upon him by the monster.
Vincent questions if the deal truly includes restoring his wife to her original human self.
The demon commends Vincent for making the right decision and accepts his forced compliance. A glowing demonic circle manifests on the floor, signaling the start of a binding contract.
Vincent drops to his knees within the fiery ritual circle as the contract takes effect.
Vincent groans in immense physical agony as the demonic energy begins to surge through him.
Vincent screams in pain as dark markings and demonic features begin to manifest on him.
The entity promises to grant Vincent supernatural abilities in exchange for his eternal loyal service.
The demon commands Vincent to obey her and hunt down other demons hidden across Earth.
The entity declares that Vincent's soul is now permanently bound to her will and power.
The possessed figure reacts with shock as something unexpected occurs during the binding ritual process.
Vincent struggles to maintain control while the dark transformation continues to take hold of him.
The demon expresses outrage that a mere human would dare to resist her overwhelming power.
Vincent gasps for air, a glowing demonic mark etched deeply into his sweating, pained forehead.
Vincent desperately calls out to his wife, hoping to find a trace of her original self.
Evelyn briefly regains consciousness and desperately begs her husband to reject the demon's horrific proposal. Vincent realizes the terrible price of the contract is the ultimate loss of his human soul. Evelyn's spirit urges Vincent to let her go rather than sacrifice himself for her sake. Evelyn pleads for Vincent to let her die peacefully instead of him becoming a monster.
The demon scoffs at human sentiment and forcefully suppresses Evelyn's brief moment of clarity.
The demon is outraged by its loss of control while Vincent screams for his wife.
A dark silhouette appears with a single glowing white eye manifesting in its shadowy center.
The distorted figure of the woman remains standing as dark energy pulses violently around her.
Vincent charges through the roaring flames, desperate to reach his wife one last final time.
A massive singular eye stares out from the darkness, questioning Vincent's reckless and futile actions.
The entity asks Vincent if his actions should be interpreted as an act of resistance. The demon questions if his hesitation is caused by the words of the possessed woman.
A massive eye warns Vincent that he is testing its patience beyond its absolute limit.
The shadowy figure of the possessed woman stands motionless amidst the raging farmhouse fire. Vincent watches in pure horror as the entity's hand suddenly bursts through the woman's chest.
He screams out in rage and desperation, unable to accept the monster's gruesome display.
The demon blames his actions for the child's death while offering one final chance.
The entity mockingly suggests he can simply replace the child once his wife is saved.
Vincent unleashes a roar of pure fury as he charges through the flames with his mallet.
With a powerful swing, he drives his heavy weapon directly into the entity's chest area.
A violent shockwave erupts from the impact, sending sparks and fire across the ruined room.
Vincent continues his relentless assault, striking the entity repeatedly with his blood-stained and heavy mallet.
He delivers a final, crushing blow that echoes through the room with a sickening crunch.
The possessed body falls backward into the shadows as blood splatters against the burning wall.
Vincent stands panting and exhausted, his face illuminated by the intense and hungry flames. The entity remains standing despite the trauma, asking if he knows why demons are strong.
A text notification clarifies that demons derive their strength from being objects of pure fear.
A giant eye looms over the scene as the entity stands before the defeated man.
A close-up reveals the sheer terror and desperation reflected in Vincent's bloodshot and wide eye.
The entity explains that fear stems from human helplessness against power they cannot resist.
Realizing his struggle is currently futile, Vincent allows his heavy mallet to drop to the floor. Overwhelmed by the situation, he turns and flees through the burning hallway to escape.
The entity watches him retreat before slowly beginning its own deliberate exit from the fire.
The possessed woman emerges from the burning farmhouse and steps out into the rain.
A close-up shows the creature's single demonic eye glowing with a piercing and eerie blue light. Narration explains that the reason Vincent Burns was uniquely strong against demons was his will. The burning farmhouse collapses in a violent explosion of fire as the woman's body falls.
Evelyn's body hits the wet ground outside, the inferno still roaring in the dark background.
Burns believed he could defeat demons and would create his own methods to win.
Vincent declares that he never again plans to meet his family as he walks away.
Vincent states his willingness to follow the creature to hell while brandishing his axe.
The demonic presence within the woman's form releases a terrifying and soul-shattering scream.
Vincent swings the axe with incredible force, striking the entity with a lethal and bloody blow.
A red splash of blood captures the moment a final, devastating strike hits its mark.
He strikes again and again, the sharp blade carving through the monster's physical, possessed form.
Silhouetted against the fire, Vincent delivers a final, crushing blow to end the nightmare. The farmhouse is completely engulfed in flames despite the heavy and dark evening downpour.
The blood-stained ox lies abandoned in the grass, its dark and violent work finally finished.
Vincent stands over the body of his wife, the silence of the forest finally returning.
He tearfully apologizes to Evelyn for failing to protect her from such a horrific fate.
A hooded priest observes the mourning husband, commenting on how precious human life truly is.
The priest suggests that Vincent should entrust his life to heaven instead of wasting it.
The hooded man notes that Vincent has a rare and remarkable talent for catching demons.
Evelyn's body lies still in the mud as the dark energy finally leaves her form.
A black snake slithers through the wet grass, fleeing from the side of the battle. Years later, the narrator reflects on meeting that demonologist again, finding him beyond any help.
The narrator warns his companion to stay alert because the man is likely hunting them.
An older and more rugged Vincent Burns stares with a grim and intense focus.
A blonde woman named Bush, dressed in a red gown, is called from off-screen. The blonde woman turns and smiles, unaware of the danger that may be approaching her. The sinister director orders his troops to prepare for their upcoming mission.
He declares his intention to reclaim the vital key currently held by Vincent Burns.
The scene shifts to the exterior of a quiet and unassuming tailor shop. Inside the shop, the tailor cordially thanks Vincent as he completes his purchase. Chloe struggles to carry a massive stack of black priest garments Vincent bought.
Vincent explains he needs spares because his clothes are constantly ruined during combat.
He pauses to look back at the silent, white-haired girl following them. A close-up reveals the girl is walking barefoot on the hard city ground.
Vincent scratches his head while contemplating his next move in the busy street.
He looks up at the shop sign, considering a new destination for the girl. The trio enters another store filled with various colorful and patterned flannel shirts.
Vincent and Chloe supervise the white-haired girl as she explores the clothing racks. Vincent leans over a shelf, carefully inspecting a pair of small white shoes.
He picks up a simple white shoe, checking it for the girl's size.
Chloe holds up a graphic t-shirt and jokingly asks if the style suits her. Vincent suddenly yells out for the child, startling everyone inside the quiet store.
The other shoppers and staff stop what they are doing to stare at them.
Vincent looks away awkwardly, realizing he has caused an unnecessary and public scene.
Malcolm chides Burns for his vulgar shouting and insists he use the girl's name.
Vincent admits the child lacks a name, prompting Malcolm to react with pure disbelief.
Vincent decides to solve the problem immediately by giving the girl a name.
He looks at the Taylor brand printed inside the shoe he is currently holding. Chloe notices the baby shoe and asks if he is buying infant clothes.
In a flashback, a younger Vincent happily shops for his unborn child.
Vincent and Evelyn embrace, filled with hope for their future as parents. He wonders which clothes would best suit a child that looks like them. Back in the present, Vincent looks at the girl and names her Taylor.
Malcolm mocks the name, accurately guessing Vincent just read it off the shoe.
Malcolm suggests several traditional names, but Vincent ignores his unsolicited and boring advice.
Vincent walks away while Malcolm continues listing potential religious names for the child.
Malcolm stands with his hands on his hips, exasperated by Vincent's stubbornness.
He stares silently at Vincent, clearly unimpressed by the man's lack of naming creativity.
Taylor stands ready in a new red dress, white socks, and her new shoes. A hand sprays a fine mist from a small red aerosol canister.
Vincent sprays Taylor with the mysterious substance while commanding her to turn around.
Chloe watches this strange ritual, jokingly asking if he is training a pet dog.
Later, Malcolm sits in the car and formally addresses Sheriff Chloe McIntosh.
Vincent and Taylor wait on the sidewalk as Malcolm attempts to resume their conversation.
Malcolm reminds Chloe of his request for her to join Burns' investigation team.
He notes that his investigation into her background revealed her exceptionally high local credibility.
A local vendor praises the sheriff's unwavering courage when facing dangerous criminals.
Neighborhood children describe Chloe as a fun sister who always plays games with them.
An elderly woman calls the sheriff an angel, noting her only flaw is singleness.
Malcolm argues that Chloe's official presence would grant Burns much-needed operational freedom. Chloe politely declines the offer, clearly wanting to stay in her current position. Malcolm reveals the trap by stating he already submitted the official transfer paperwork.
He explains the cover story involving Vincent acting as an undercover FBI agent.
Chloe is outraged that Malcolm bypassed her consent to finalize the new team arrangement.
Vincent complains about adding Chloe to his household, already feeling overwhelmed by his responsibilities.
Chloe shouts from the car window, taking immediate offense at being labeled a burden.
A police radio broadcasts an urgent request for backup at a local high school.
Chloe reacts with shock, identifying the transmission as coming from her local police radio frequency.
Chloe confronts Malcolm, questioning his habit of interfering with others' jobs and his blatant wiretapping. Malcolm justifies his actions by his FBI status, which Vincent finds to be a begrudgingly logical explanation.
An unsettling and distorted demonic visage manifests within a chaotic field of dark energy.
Vincent grimaces in intense pain as a psychic scream tears through his troubled mind.
Vincent adjusts his collar, his cold blue eyes reflecting a grim and deadly resolve.
The imposing brick facade of the high school stands quiet under the bright midday sun.
Law enforcement vehicles are parked in disarray along the street leading to the school.
Chloe complains about her terrible luck at returning to her alma mater in this tactical manner.
Chloe asks for a situation update, and the sunglasses officer reports they are still assessing the scene.
Chloe questions the length of time that has passed since the police first arrived on site. The sunglasses officer explains that communication with all teams inside has been entirely lost.
Reports indicate the school has stopped answering calls and no gunshots were heard by outside units.
The narrative text reveals that every follow-up team sent into the school has also mysteriously disappeared.
The blonde officer notes the impossible situation while Chloe decides they must enter to find answers.
Chloe leads her tactical team toward the entrance, ready to face the unknown threat.
The tactical team's heavy boots click against the pavement as they approach the entrance. The team takes tactical positions around the doors, weapons raised and bodies ready.
The doors are kicked open with a loud thud, revealing the eerie interior.
Chloe enters the building first, her eyes scanning the dark foyer for sign of movement.
A long, desolate hallway is bathed in a haunting and unnatural glow of blue.
The officers move as a unit into the dark corridor, their shadows lengthening.
The blonde officer notes the unnatural darkness as Chloe orders the team to maintain their focus.
They continue their slow advance, weapons held high as they probe the silent school.
Chloe and her partner move in tandem, their expressions tight with anticipation and dread.
Chloe's silhouette is cast against the wall as she carefully navigates the dark corridor.
Chloe's eye widens in pure terror as she spots something truly horrific down the hallway.
A victim hangs suspended in the air, surrounded by a swirling pool of purple energy. Chloe reacts with shock and begins to describe the gruesome scene as she aims her revolver. A text bubble questions the mental state of the specific psychopath responsible for such cruelty.
A sinister figure wearing a stitched hood smiles with glowing and malevolent pink eyes.
The scene transitions back to the school's peaceful exterior before the nightmare begins.
In a past classroom session, an officer instructs the students to pass out the lesson papers.
The officer highlights increasing student delinquency as a major and growing local issue.
The officer attributes student tattoos to simple curiosity or social pressure during their youth. The officer warns the class that the police are monitoring everyone very closely. Students are told to immediately report any delinquent behavior they witness among their peers to parents. The officer urges the students to report suspicious activities directly to his team or their parents. The officer calls delinquent behaviors things for life's losers while a blonde student listens skeptically. The officer argues delinquents lack courage. A pencil eraser leaves behind shavings on a desk.
The officer claims students seek escape as a demon sketch of him is finished by a student.
A dark-haired student laughs hysterically, finding the demonic caricature of the officer perfect. The officer snaps his attention to the two students and demands to know if they are listening.
The officer labels delinquent kids as persons of interest, and the dark-haired student reacts with shock.
The blonde student taps his pencil on the desk, appearing completely unmoved by the lecture.
The officer accuses the students of joining gangs and distributing harmful materials within the school.
Other students in the background snicker while the blonde student maintains his defiant silence. The officer calls the blonde student's choice of clothing suspicious, which is met with silence.
The officer questions potential student connections to the notorious and famous local Red Faction gang.
Ethan ignores the officer's lecture and walks out of the classroom.
The officer scolds the departing students, labeling their defiant behavior as dangerous.
The officer yells at Diego, demanding to know where he is going.
Diego jokingly identifies as a sidekick and insists on following his leader.
The officer watches in disbelief as the two students flee the room.
Ethan and Diego sit on the school roof to escape the classroom.
Looking at the sky, Diego remarks on the officer's unnecessarily harsh attitude.
The two boys sit together while looking out over the city skyline. Diego acknowledges the authority of the police while Ethan expresses clear annoyance.
Diego questions Ethan's potential ties to a local gang and his father's history. Ethan dismisses the officer's claims, noting his father is no longer in his life.
Looking downcast, Ethan reflects on the officer's accusations about his family's past.
Diego offers a sincere apology for bringing up Ethan's father at a bad time.
Ethan reassures his friend that the world is better off without his father.
Diego wonders if the officer knows they are secretly training to become heroes.
Diego reminds Ethan of their long-standing childhood agreement to become a hero duo.
Diego imagines himself as a confident superhero, striking a heroic and bold pose.
Ethan is depicted in a stylized comic book manner as a stoic primary hero. Ethan remembers the promise but notes it was an idea from elementary school. A crude notebook drawing displays the two boys in their imagined superhero costumes.
Diego claims the idea is recent and asks Ethan for a pen.
They debate the details of the costume, questioning if the character wears goggles.
Diego asks for clarification regarding the strange markings on the hero's limbs. Ethan smiles and explains that the hero wears rubber gloves as part of his outfit.
Ethan suddenly spots something unusual on the school grounds far below the roof.
A woman in a red dress stands on the lawn holding a white parasol.
The blonde woman in the red dress admires the school's size and cleanliness.
A scarecrow figure standing beside her declares its intention to target the school. Ethan reacts with shock as he watches the mysterious figures from the roof's edge.
The woman in the red dress looks up and playfully winks at the building.
Ethan flinches in terror, sensing a sudden and overwhelming feeling of impending doom.
Diego notices his friend's distress and asks what he is looking at.
Ethan points toward the tree, but the schoolyard now appears completely deserted.
Ethan describes the girl and the scarecrow, but Diego thinks he is imagining things.
Diego recalls a horror story about a cursed doll that massacres a school.
Terrified by the thought, Diego rushes for the ladder and urges Ethan to leave.
Inside, the classroom ceiling begins to glow with a strange and unsettling blue light.
The lights suddenly flicker out, leading the officer to assume a power outage.
The officer orders the students to stay put while he goes to investigate.
A student finds the interruption perfect, wishing he had joined Ethan on the roof.
A brown-haired girl looks around the darkened room as the atmosphere grows heavy.
She notes the eerie contrast between the bright outdoor sun and the indoor shadows.
The school's red brick facade remains still while the interior shifts into darkness.
The girl questions why the inside of the building has become so unnaturally dark.
The officer walks alone down a silent hallway bathed in a haunting blue core. The officer stops in his tracks as he notices something disturbing on the floor.
He finds a single shoe abandoned in a spreading pool of vibrant pink liquid.
The officer wonders if delinquent students are playing a prank with the pink fluid.
A close-up of the officer's eye reveals his growing horror at the scene.
The scarecrow stands motionless in the hallway amidst a trail of pink blood.
Kneeling by a pink trail, the officer dismisses the bizarre scene as an elaborate prank.
The officer examines the pink substance, wondering how such an unusual thing was created.
The scarecrow looms silently over the unsuspecting officer as he continues his investigation.
A close-up reveals the officer's hand holding one of the mysterious pink fruit-like objects.
The officer senses a presence and begins to look up toward the dark figure.
Noticing someone nearby, the officer utters a short word of recognition in the darkness.
The scarecrow's stitched face and glowing pink eyes are shown in a chilling close-up.
A distorted voice from the shadows informs the officer that the object is his.
The scarecrow's face splits open as it rejects the officer's presence with a cold word.
A jagged speech bubble delivers a sudden and piercing scream of intense pain.
The officer falls back in terror as pink liquid splashes across the hallway floor.
Panicked, the officer attempts to run away through the dark and quiet school corridor.
With pink stains on his hand, the officer looks back with an expression of dread. A violent impact transforms the officer's head into a cluster of growing pink apples.
The officer's head is completely replaced by a bunch of the mysterious pink fruits.
The cluster of apples detaches from the neck and falls toward the school floor.
Chloe holds a pink mask and notes it was filled with something weird inside.
Chloe observes the mask while her partner admits he mistook the dummy for a person.
Chloe holds one of the pink fruit-like objects while identifying it simply as this.
The scarecrow looms menacingly behind Chloe's team as they investigate the strange pink evidence.
The scene transitions, providing a brief pause before returning to the events inside the school.
Students waiting in the dark hallway ask when the electricity will finally come back on.
A group of students wonders about the sudden disappearance of their school's facility manager.
The students notice someone approaching through the dark hallway and assume help has arrived.
The facility manager runs toward the group while screaming in absolute and helpless terror.
A massive, many-armed monster with glowing pink eyes looms over the fleeing facility manager.
The man is seized by the monster's limbs and begs for someone to save him.
The man's head erupts into a mass of pink apples as the monster claimed him.
The students watch in frozen horror as the man is consumed by the monster's power.
A droplet of pink liquid lands on a student's face as she watches in horror.
The girl begins to scream hysterically as the horrific massacre unfolds in the holler.
The monster attacks the remaining students, its many limbs striking out in the darkness.
A student is violently struck down as pink apple clusters erupt around the scene. The entity continues its brutal assault, slaughtering the students in the dark school corridor.
Outside, Ethan and Diego hear the sounds of the slaughter coming from the building.
Diego asks Ethan if he saw that and wonders if it's all a dream.
Ethan suggests they run immediately, but Diego asks if they are leaving Barry behind.
Ethan appears confused and asks Diego who he is referring to as they prepare.
Diego identifies Barry Hollis as the girl Ethan likes and points her out. Ethan blushes and denies his feelings while Diego continues to tease his friend.
Diego points out that heroes win over girls during crises like the one occurring. An image of Barry Hollis smiling is shown as Diego imagines her being rescued.
Ethan skeptically asks if they are really going to risk their lives for one kiss.
A heavy boot steps onto the school floor as the boys decide to head inside.
Ethan and Diego move cautiously through the dark hallway, passing pools of pink liquid.
Ethan uses a rotary phone to urgently ask if he has reached the police station.
Ethan reports a shooter while Diego plans to make good use of a flashlight.
Ethan identifies their location as Sandstone Wrench High School to the emergency dispatcher. Looking down the bloody hallway, Ethan begs the police to come quickly to the school.
The scene shifts to an empty classroom standing dark and silent under the school lights.
Ethan finds the classroom empty while Diego wonders if the other students have all run away.
Ethan points out something unusual on the floor to Diego as they enter the dark room.
A pool of pink liquid is splattered across the floor near the classroom doorframe.
Diego suggests following the pink trail to see where the missing students have gone.
Ethan worries that Barry might be badly hurt, but Diego tells him to stop the negative talk. A sudden rustling sound from the lockers startles Ethan and Diego in the dark hallway.
Several students stand around a large puddle of pink fluid on the school floor.
Diego hunches over in the dark, looking into the shadows of the silent hallway.
Diego identifies the figures in the hallway as their own classmates from their school class.
Ethan nervously calls out to his fellow students as he approaches the huddled group.
A male classmate with pink eyes and a stained mouth holds a mysterious fruit.
A cluster of glowing pink apples lies scattered on the floor between the students. Ethan reacts with shock and confusion at the disturbing state of his fellow students.
A focused shot of Ethan's vest as the boys stand in the eerie hallway. A possessed student screams violently, showing a heart-shaped object inside his open mouth.
Ethan and Diego flee in terror as a horde of classmates begins to chase.
The possessed students pursue the boys with vacant expressions and pink-stained faces.
Diego and Ethan run through the corridor, desperate to put distance between themselves and the horde. The two boys sprint down the hallway past rows of silent blue school lockers.
A pale hand reaches out from behind a locker toward the boys as they pass.
Ethan screams in panic as someone suddenly grabs his arm from out of the darkness.
Two students with pink faces and hollow eyes stand motionless in the dark corridor. The scene shifts to the locker room where a single locker remains slightly open. A close-up view shows the dark and narrow interior of the open school locker.
Diego hides inside a cramped locker with Barry Hollis, both looking extremely terrified.
Barry asks if they were still at school, while Diego explains they came to save her, though she suggests she saved them instead.
Ethan opens the locker door and informs the two that it is safe to emerge.
Diego asks why their classmates are in such a state, and Barry compares it to a zombie movie.
Diego concludes that their classmates have been hypnotized by some strange and malevolent power. Barry explains that they were hiding in the classroom to escape a dangerous monster.
A voice tells a terrified student not to be afraid as the possessed horde gathers.
A mysterious presence promises that they did not come to cause any physical harm.
The woman in the red dress walks through a room littered with pink apple-like objects.
Barry asks if the woman is telling the truth, and the mysterious woman confirms she is.
The woman explains that young sacrifices are needed while she moves a pink fruit toward Barry. A student surrounded by a purple aura asks for help with a distorted expression.
The possessed classmate lunges forward with a crazed grin while bathed in sinister energy. The entity vows to transform everyone else into creatures similar to itself while attacking.
Ethan asks Barry for more information on how she managed to survive the attack. Barry shows a cross necklace, explaining that it was a protective gift from her father. Barry holds the cross tightly, stating it saved her from becoming a cannibalistic monster.
Diego asks if they are the only safe ones remaining, and Barry confirms that they are. Ethan approaches a window and suggests they find a way to leave the school immediately.
Diego states that escaping through the window is impossible, leading Barry to ask for a specific reason.
Ethan prepares his flashlight, intending to use it to reveal a hidden obstacle outside. Ethan throws the flashlight out of the open window into the air outside the building.
The flashlight strikes an invisible barrier, causing bright ripples to form in the sky. A massive energy dome is visible outside, trapping the entire school within its boundary. Large circular ripples expand across the surface of the invisible wall surrounding the school grounds. Diego watches in disbelief as the flashlight is deflected by the shimmering and impassable dome.
Barry observes the school surroundings and notes that windows and doors are now the same. Looking out at the barrier, Diego somberly remarks that they have no option of leaving.
The quiet school grounds stand empty, trapped within the shimmering and impassable energy dome.
Barry advises the boys to hide in a safe place until the monster finally leaves.
Pink fluid and fruit-like clusters litter the floor, marking the remains of another horrific transformation.
Chloe declares the school is hell while she and Ray face a horde of students.
Looking back into the darkness, Barry admits that no one truly knows what will happen next.
A faint hope remains that a savior might eventually come from outside to rescue them.
A tall man in a dark coat and clerical collar stands outside the school gates.
A stern man's face is reflected in the polished blade of a large battle axe.
Malcolm sits in a car and asks if the weapons they brought will be enough.
A man identifies an axe, knife, and shotgun before telling Malcolm he suits this work. A blonde woman tells the men to move quickly if they have all their equipment.
Malcolm instructs his team to keep a close watch on anyone approaching the young girl.
A small girl watches anxiously from the car window as the adults prepare for battle.
The priest and the blonde officer enter the dark school building through the front doors.
An empty and ominous school hallway stretches deep into the building's silent, dark interior.
The blonde officer appears visibly shaken as she follows the stern priest into the school.
The priest tells her to stay back, but she insists on finding her missing colleagues.
A single glowing pink fruit lies in a puddle of shimmering liquid on the floor.
Examining the fruit and nearby clothes, the officer notes the scene is far from coincidental.
Walking through the dark corridor, the priest identifies the mysterious object as the forbidden fruit. The priest explains that those who eat the fruit become slaves obedient to malevolent demons. He concludes that the demons are specifically targeting the students within the high school.
The blonde officer asks what the entities are trying to gain from such a massacre.
The priest maintains a grim expression while considering the horrific nature of the unfolding ritual.
A massive, glowing purple limb strikes out through the darkness of the school corridor.
Ray is violently thrown back as a powerful impact shatters the wall behind him.
A giant, veined purple hand looms over Ray as he struggles to recover from the blow.
Chloe screams that their ordinary weapons are completely ineffective against monsters of this terrible power.
Desperate, Chloe tells Ray to abandon her and run while they still have a chance.
Crying in pain, Chloe admits she has become nothing more than baggage for her partner.
Ray refuses to retreat, vowing to save Chloe, the students, and everyone trapped inside.
The monster's head is illuminated by muzzle flashes as Ray continues his desperate, futile assault.
A sudden movement behind him causes Ray to freeze in a moment of pure shock.
Ray turns around frantically as he realizes he has been flanked in the dark hallway.
A horde of possessed students with glowing pink eyes and stains closes in on Ray.
Ray's face fills with dread as he realizes the hopelessness of his situation.
A jagged, blade-like appendage swings through the air with lethal and terrifying speed.
The monster's limb pierces clean through Ray's chest, ending his desperate and brave stand.
Ray coughs up blood as he stares in shock at the fatal wound through his torso.
Chloe screams Ray's name in absolute agony as she watches her partner being struck down.
Multiple veined hands seize Ray as he weakly apologizes for failing to protect his partner.
Ray's form is violently transformed into a massive pink apples, leaving only his gear.
Ray's tactical vest falls to the floor, surrounded by the fruits of his horrific transformation.
Chloe stares in silence at the empty space where Ray stood just a moment ago.
Chloe recognizes a student named Hank among the possessed figures looming over her in the hallway. Chloe whispers Ray's name as his smoking weapons lie abandoned on the bloodied school floor.
Terrified and alone, Chloe wonders what will happen to her now that Ray is gone.
Overlooking a hallway of failure, a lone voice laments their inability to save their fallen comrades.
Amidst a glowing aura, a figure descends while a witness watches from the darkness below.
A simple wooden cross hangs suspended on a string, serving as a beacon of remaining hope.
A distorted, glowing appendage strikes through the air, radiating a sinister and blindingly bright energy.
Trapped in a luminous void, a person tumbles helplessly as the surrounding light consumes their form. Barry stands protectively over the fallen boy, clutching her cross as she prepares to face the shadows. A grotesque entity with numerous hands covering its face shudders as embers float through the hallway.
Diego sprints toward his friends in the corridor, frantically calling out to the black-haired boy.
A crowd of possessed students with hollow eyes and glowing mouths looms threateningly in the dark.
Gripping a pink fruit, a student lets out a jagged scream as energy ripples from his mouth.
The student in the gray shirt confirms his involvement as he is surrounded by dark figures.
Holding a glowing orb, the student mockingly asks Ron if they intend to feed the group.
The pink fruit strikes a possessed student squarely in the head, causing a small, glowing explosion. A taunting message appears, insulting the athletic abilities of the targets in the middle of the chaos.
With a confident and mischievous grin, the student prepares his next move against the approaching horde.
The gray-shirted student laughs and goads the shadow figures into chasing him through the school hallways.
A towering, scarecrow-like monster in a wide-brimmed hat stands silently in the blue-tiled school corridor.
A dark void opens, filled with a pulsing, rhythmic sound that echoes through the oppressive silence. Barry looks away with a troubled expression, reflecting on the grim reality of their current situation.
Sitting atop a possessed student, the woman in red asks if all the children are captured.
The monster in the hat reports that one girl continues to resist using a special tool.
The woman in red commands the monster to stop wasting time and complete the task immediately.
She warns that the interference of a specific powerful human would make the situation much more difficult.
Accepting the orders, the monster in the hat prepares to unleash a new power from within.
From a glowing rift in its chest, the monster releases a swarm of screaming, ghost-like entities.
Diego carries the unconscious boy on his back as they run through the hallway with Barry.
An unseen voice expresses gratitude and questions if the group are students from the local school. Hearing the voice, Diego and Barry stop and look back with wide eyes and nervous expressions.
Barry expresses concern, inquiring if their friends who fled in a different direction managed to survive.
Diego reassures her, confidently claiming that their friends possess the superior survival instincts of a dog.
Looking ahead with grim determination, Barry prepares to use her father's gift against the coming threat.
The boy asks to use the cross for safety, but Barry refuses, citing its personal value.
A pack of spectral figures with distorted faces races toward the group with incredible and unnatural speed.
Surprised by the sudden appearance of the spirits, Diego shouts out in shock at the new danger.
As the ghosts close in, the group realizes these enemies are far faster than the previous monster.
Barry bravely steps forward, raising her cross necklace to ward off the incoming wave of spirits.
A blur of motion captures a high-speed struggle as a spirit lunges toward its intended human target.
Barry is violently knocked to the floor, her protective cross necklace sliding away across the blue tiles. Diego watches in horror and screams for Barry as she is pulled away into the dark hallway.
Standing alone with the unconscious boy, Diego looks back into the shadows where his friend just vanished.
3 horrific entities with black, screaming faces and pink veins loom over the remaining school survivors.
Diego's face is etched with terror as he continues to carry his friend through the haunted corridor.
Holding a pink umbrella, the woman in the red dress walks calmly away from the unfolding carnage.
A chilling announcement echoes through the darkness, signaling that the time for the ritual harvest has begun.
Identifying herself as Bush, the woman reveals a beating heart in her chest and declares her conquest.
Bush demands that the victims offer up their blood as she stands amidst the swirling dark energy.
Credits acknowledge the creative team behind the story, concluding the immediate chapter of the ongoing nightmare.
A formal notice advises readers to support the original creators and provides information for official versions.
The scene shifts as a man in a tank top is roughly handcuffed by a police officer.
The officer reads the suspect his legal rights while the man struggles and demands to be released.
Mac's partner exhales a deep sigh of relief after completing a difficult and stressful task. Mac's partner asks the blonde officer if he is a father to a young daughter. He tells Mac to take her in because the two of them do not get along. Mac pauses and considers his partner's request with a silent and deeply thoughtful expression.
The two young boys stand together in a quiet alleyway looking weary and bruised.
Mac offers the boys medical assistance and asks the blonde boy for his name.
Looking weary, the blonde boy identifies himself to the officer by the name Ethan.
Mac praises Ethan for his bravery in preventing what could have been a bigger accident. Ethan expresses doubt to his friend about whether he actually did the right thing.
A close-up of Ethan's face reveals a faint mark and a deeply conflicted gaze.
A bruised man watches from a car window, his reflection ghostly against the glass.
Mac reassures Ethan that his actions were necessary and tells him not to dwell on it.
Mac maintains a steady and intense gaze, silently acknowledging the weight of the situation. Ethan hums to himself while looking down at the comic book held in his hands.
Holding his book, Ethan looks up and asks Mac if he has an interest in comics.
Ethan looks up at Mac and expresses his dream of becoming a hero just like him.
Peering up at the officer's silhouette, Ethan asks if becoming a hero is possible for him. Mac confirms Ethan can be a hero and asks what he would do with that power. Ethan declares his dream to save the world while Mac remains silent in the shadows. The black-haired woman, Chloe, struggles to pick herself up from the blue-tiled floor. Ethan stands protectively over the fallen woman, readying himself for the inevitable monster encounter. 3 grotesque, sack-masked monsters loom in the dark hallway, moving toward their human targets.
Ethan tells himself to stay calm, reminding himself of his boxing training and current capability.
A thought bubble notes that the entities focus on converting students rather than attacking them.
2 eerie, motionless figures with hollowed-out faces watch the young man with terrifying intensity. The monsters lunge forward with sudden speed, catching Ethan off guard in the darkness. With a grimace of absolute focus, Ethan draws back his fist to deliver a strike. Connecting a powerful punch, Ethan strikes directly into the face of one approaching entity. A giant veined purple hand descends from above, threatening to crush Ethan and Chloe. Ethan tumbles to the floor as a massive limb strikes near the fallen cross necklace. Reaching out desperately, Ethan manages to snatch Barry's cross necklace from the blue tiles. The monster's empty, dark eye sockets stare down with a chilling and malevolent presence.
Seizing Ethan from behind, the monster pulls him back as he attempts to fight.
Grinning confidently, Ethan reveals that he has successfully retrieved Barry's protective cross necklace.
Ethan raises the glowing cross and commands it to burn everything in its path. The wooden cross glows with an intense, holy light as Ethan attempts to activate it. Ethan expresses shock and confusion as he realizes his command failed to produce any fire. Thrown violently onto his back, Ethan gasps in pain as the cold floor meets him.
Ethan desperately questions why he cannot activate the cross when Barry used it so easily.
A sock-faced entity walks past the fallen boy toward the terrified woman on the floor.
Chloe lets out a terrified scream as the monster begins its final approach toward her. The monster looms closer, its distorted and horrific face filling the frame with pure dread. Refusing to surrender, Ethan lunges forward and grips the monster's legs with all his strength. Ethan yells for Chloe to escape while he uses his strength to stall the monster. 2 of the horrific creatures look down at Ethan as he clings to their companion. Ethan is brutally struck while on the floor, yet he continues his desperate protective hold. Chloe pleads with Ethan to stop being reckless and run away for his own safety. Ethan commands Chloe to keep moving and escape regardless of how difficult it may be. A massive fist slams into Ethan's back, pinning him down with a heavy impact. Ethan acknowledges to himself that succeeding in this impossible situation might actually be hopeless. Ethan is pinned to the floor as an unseen voice encourages him to keep enduring. A monster with a scythe prepares to finish the boy, mocking his useless and persistent struggle. Ethan shouts for the creature to stop, reminding it of a promise to spare the students.
The monster retorts that losing one student won't matter as it prepares to deliver the final blow.
A scream of pure terror escapes Ethan as the sharp blade swings toward his exposed head. A powerful, gloved hand suddenly intercepts the monster's limb, halting the lethal strike midair. Blinking through his fear, Ethan looks up in shock as he realizes someone has saved him.
A scarred man with a bare, muscular chest looms over the monster, crushing its arm effortlessly. Chloe watches in disbelief, recognizing the powerful newcomer as the man she knows as Mr. Burns.
With a violent surge of strength, the man rips the monster's arm completely out of its socket.
He crushes the creature's head in his palm, releasing a shockwave of energy that shatters it.
Standing amidst the debris, the man identifies the victims as the people who were in the school.
Using a massive axe, the man decapitates the monster, sending pink blood spraying across the floor.
Another monster pauses in fear, staring at the cross-shaped scars etched onto the man's powerful torso.
The creature realizes with horror that their new opponent is the legendary and dangerous Vincent Burns.
Vincent swings his heavy axe with blinding speed, cutting through the monster's guard in one motion.
The monster is sliced in half as Vincent's powerful strike leaves a glowing trail of destruction. Raising his blood-stained weapon, Vincent prepares to eliminate the remaining threats in the dark hallway.
Vincent catches an incoming weapon with his bare hand, staring down the monster with cold intensity. Delivering a crushing kick, Vincent sends the monster flying backward into the row of blue lockers.
The impact creates a burst of energy as the creature is slammed violently against the wall.
Without hesitation, Vincent brings his massive axe down with both hands to deliver a killing blow.
The blade cleaves through the monster's skull, ending its existence in a final, bloody spray.
Ethan remains on the floor, mesmerized by the overwhelming display of power he just witnessed.
The purple-haired officer kneels beside Ethan, noting his injuries and asking if he can still move. Vincent critiques Ethan's fighting style, stating that demons love playing with fools who fight so stupidly.
Lighting a cigarette, Vincent admits that despite the boy's foolishness, he actually managed to save someone.
Vincent asks if Ethan can stand, while the boy gazes at him and whispers the word superhero.
The purple-haired officer looks toward Vincent, her expression a mix of professional duty and deep relief.
She calls out to Vincent with wide eyes, clearly relieved that he arrived to handle the situation.
A severed monster head screeches that one is still alive, blood pooling around it on the floor.
The officer asks Vincent if he spared it on purpose, but he flatly denies any such intention.
With a snap of his fingers, Vincent causes the remaining monster head to explode into bright flames.
The officer yells in alarm, pointing out that Vincent's shoulder appears to be badly dislocated after battle.
Vincent looks down at his arm with a surprised expression, finally noticing the extent of his injury.
Barry's cross necklace lies alone on the floor, its holy light glowing against the blue tiles.
The purple-haired officer points at the object, her mouth open in a look of sudden realization.
Chloe inspects her bandaged foot, relieved to find that the wound has finally stopped its bleeding.
She says transformed bodies eventually revert and suggests they go to the hospital after the case ends.
Staring into the distance with a hollow gaze, the officer quietly declares that everything is her fault.
Chloe covers her face, lamenting that believing the truth sooner could have avoided the entire fight.
She tells the officer that Hank and Ray died specifically because of her own personal failures.
Breaking down into tears, Chloe sobs that she is responsible for the deaths of her own comrades.
The officer hugs the weeping Camila, reassuring her that the tragic events were not her fault. Vincent stands nearby with crossed arms, telling the survivors to leave the work of vengeance to them. The purple-haired officer looks up and pleads with Vincent to offer Camila some words of comfort. Vincent remains silent and stoic, looking at the two women with a cold and detached gaze. He turns and walks away, ignoring the officer's frustrated question about whether he'd just ignored her. She demands to know if it hurts a former priest to offer even a small bit of comfort. Vincent continues walking through the dark corridor as Ethan follows behind his silent and scarred savior. Ethan looks up and asks Vincent if he plans to save Barry from her captors now. Vincent responds that he intended to go regardless of the boy's persistent and unnecessary nagging. Inspecting Barry's necklace, Vincent notes he must discover where she originally acquired such a rare artifact. Ethan explains her father gave it to her before asking about the item's true nature. Vincent reveals the object is a nail used to fasten Jesus to the cross. He explains a single nail was melted down and forged into 3 distinct crosses. Vincent notes the blood and bone fragments of a deity within it grant the item power. Vincent tosses the cross back to Ethan and commands the surprised young man to keep it. Ethan expresses shock, questioning if he is truly worthy of holding such an incredible holy relic. Vincent explains that the Holy Cross naturally finds its way to whoever needs its protection most. He tells the boy that if it ended up in his hands, there is a reason. A frantic student runs through the blood-spattered hallway, calling out to Ethan for help. Relieved to see Diego safe, Ethan asks if he managed to lose the pursuing monsters. Diego reports the creatures stopped chasing him and headed toward the building's 2nd floor. Gripping his massive weapon, Vincent deduces that something of great importance is happening on that floor. Dark lines descend through the purple atmosphere, marking a transition to the upper level. The silent stairwell stands empty, leading toward the danger waiting in the rooms above. Vincent and the officer ascend the stairs together, moving toward the double doors in the distance.
The double doors remain shut, concealing the source of the dark energy within the hallway.
A young girl peeks through a narrow opening in the door with a look of terror.
Her eyes widen in realization as she spots the figures approaching from the other side.
Vincent tells the officer to move while she reminds him of proper infiltration protocols.
The purple-haired officer reacts with confusion as Vincent pushes forward to handle the threat himself.
Vincent maintains a cold, determined focus while the officer looks on with a deeply stunned expression.
Pink energy and ghostly human silhouettes fill the hallway in a display of supernatural power.
A person's face is consumed by pulsating pink vines that begin to overtake their entire body.
The pink vines spread across the floor and walls, claiming everything in the dark corridor.
The officer notices the students are bleeding and asks if everyone is in immediate mortal danger.
Vincent warns that if the process continues any longer, all the students will surely die.
Vincent clenches his fist around a thick, glowing pink vine to inspect the strange energy source.
He observes that they cannot stop the process by simply cutting the vines away from victims.
The officer suggests grabbing the vines and pulling them down to free the trapped humans. Vincent dismisses the idea, stating it won't do any good against the entity controlling them. A female voice declares that the humans are already completely under her absolute dark control. The unseen speaker taunts them, saying they must beg their master for mercy to save anyone.
A horned demon sits on a throne of vines, demanding they beg her for their lives.
The demon welcomes Vincent, acknowledging his reputation while addressing him specifically by his surname, Burns.
Red bands of energy tighten across the background as the demon exerts her heavy presence.
A single red-clad foot steps onto the floor as the demon prepares to engage her visitors. She admits she would have preferred to leave before facing the man from the scary rumors.
Vincent demands to know their true objective, noting a ritual shouldn't require this much blood.
The demon laughs and says she won't reveal her plans out of kindness before identifying herself.
She offers a tiny hint, mockingly suggesting that Vincent would never be able to guess otherwise.
The demon manifests a small, grotesque creature from the pulsing energy in her red palm.
The creature writhes and bubbles as it begins to take on a more solid, terrifying form.
The entity screeches as the demon explains that her power allows her to summon horrific monsters.
The purple-haired officer stares in complete shock at the bizarre and terrifying creature the demon summoned. The demon asks if her authority is impressive as she holds the screeching monster in her hand.
Vincent readies his massive cross-shaped firearm, preparing to fire as a loud clicking sound echoes.
A massive explosion erupts as the demon's eyes widen in sudden and sharp alarm.
The demon woman stares into the barrel of Vincent's weapon with a stunned expression.
A sudden blur of motion signals the start of a violent and high-speed confrontation.
A massive explosion of golden energy erupts, completely engulfing the demon woman in flames.
The blinding brilliance of the explosion expands, consuming the shadows within the corridor.
A horrific monster is incinerated by the holy blast, its body crumbling into burning embers.
The charred silhouette of a creature lies on the floor as the fire slowly recedes. Vincent Burns reflects on how unfair it is for people to be sacrificed for a demon's crossing.
Still smoldering, the demon woman angrily calls Vincent an arrogant creation for shooting mid-conversation.
She demands respect, identifying her vessel as Bush, a great judge of hell and a conqueror.
Vincent fires his heavy weapon again, the barrel emitting a sharp and sudden boom.
Another violent explosion strikes the demon woman, causing her to let out a piercing scream.
The empty school hallway remains eerily still beneath the flickering purple light of the ceiling.
Chloe stands in silence, her expression reflecting the grim weight of the unfolding battle.
A view down the barrel of the cross-shaped weapon reveals its lethal mechanical precision.
Gripping his massive firearm, Vincent maintains a cold and unwavering focus on his demonic target.
The demon woman demands that Vincent drop his weapon immediately, though he remains visibly unimpressed.
Holding a terrified student hostage, the demon woman threatens to kill the girl if he resists.
She mockingly suggests that even a reckless hero like Vincent wouldn't want to see someone die.
Vincent stares at her with a chillingly detached gaze, dismissing her claim about being a hero.
With a heavy thud, Vincent drops his massive cross-shaped firearm onto the blue-tiled floor.
Smirking, the demon orders him to stay obedient so she can drain their blood and leave.
Vincent complies and raises his hands, standing before the demon in an apparent gesture of surrender.
Vincent laughs, mocking the demon for using the same predictable threats whenever things turn against them.
Vincent suddenly stabs a small cross into the demon woman's chest, catching her completely off guard.
Leaning in, Vincent warns the wounded demon that whatever she does, he will be worse.
Dark blood splatters as the small cross remains deeply embedded in the demon's bleeding body.
Thick, thorny pink vines begin to wrap around the demon as her body undergoes a transformation.
A single drop of dark blood falls from a thorny vine onto the checkered floor.
A towering dark entity emerges, declaring how foolish it is for anyone to provoke a demon.
Grotesque monsters with glowing blue eyes emerge from the shadows, screeching with primal and hungry rage.
Possessed students and monsters stand among the vines, staring forward with hollow and glowing eyes.
The demon woman questions if Vincent's head would grow back if she buried it in the ground.
A dark vision shows Vincent's head placed inside a hole.
illustrating the demon's gruesome threat. She taunts Vincent, claiming his previous victories have deluded him into thinking he is truly great.
Vincent hurls another small crossweapon with precision, striking the demon woman directly in the face. Vincent smiles coldly, admitting he threw the weapon simply because her long monologue bored him.
Furious and bleeding, the demon woman commands her monsters to bring her the man's head.
A pack of red-skinned monsters charges down the corridor, their mouths agape in a terrifying screech.
The officer asked for guidance, noting that the students and monsters are all mixed together.
Vincent tells her to handle the defeated enemies while he deals with the remaining active threats. Vincent confirms the plan, reaching for the handle of the massive axe on his pack. Vincent declares that his strikes will help restore the little mind the victims have left.
A possessed student lunges forward as Vincent prepares to counter the attack with a small cross.
Vincent delivers a powerful strike, knocking the possessed boy aside with a single heavy motion.
The man shifts his position rapidly, becoming a blur of motion against the dark background. With a glowing blade, Vincent carves through a charging monster, leaving a trail of blue energy.
Another creature is sliced apart by Vincent's relentless assault as he pushes through the hallway.
Sprinting through the corridor, Vincent dual-wields axes to cut down the monsters blocking his path.
The demon woman watches with wide eyes, realizing her defensive line has been breached.
Vincent cleaves through the final guard, sending a spray of blood across the dark school floor.
Vincent's expression darkens as he focuses his cold, lethal energy on his demonic adversary.
In a spectacular display of combat, Vincent carves through the demonic horde with relentless precision. The demon woman shouts at her minions, ordering them to use the students as human shields. A powerful hand reaches out to deliver a crushing blow in the heat of battle.
A piercing, unearthly screech echoes through the hallway, marking a peak in the demonic presence.
The skeletal demon looms over a terrified student, its grotesque form radiating pure, dark malice. Vincent's twin axes spin rapidly, creating a defensive whirlwind that shreds through the incoming monsters. With a powerful throw, Vincent hurls his glowing axe, cutting down a creature across the hallway. Vincent kicks off a locker to gain momentum, his movement a blur of lethal speed. Vaulting through the air, Vincent delivers a devastating strike that scatters the remaining shadow monsters.
A heavy thud sounds as a monster is slammed into the floor, defeated and broken. A possessed student lets out a pained shriek as the demonic influence finally begins failing.
Vincent pins a struggling possessed student to the floor to prevent any further harm to others.
Holding her handcuffs, the sheriff demands that the possessed student stop moving and stay still immediately.
The demon woman's eyes widen in realization as she sees her elite forces being slaughtered.
A monstrous entity is struck by a powerful energy blast, sending it flying backward in pain.
A silhouetted man explains that the judges of hell cannot yet manifest their full power on Earth. The man in sunglasses states that they must endure the limitations until the gate is open.
Vincent's twin axes pin a monster to the lockers, ending its threat with a sharp impact.
A voice from the shadows declares the fallen demon was the weakest as its body disintegrates.
Vincent stands amidst the carnage, his presence overwhelming as the demonic energy begins to fade. The demon woman remains silent, her glowing red eyes fixed on the man who defeated her. Wrapped in thorny vines, the demon woman's hand trembles as she questions bowing to a mere human. The self-proclaimed judge screams that she is the one who will bring the world's end.
Lethal beams of pink energy blast down the hallway, incinerating everything in their direct path.
Vincent spins his axes with incredible speed, successfully deflecting the demon's powerful energy attacks.
With glowing blue eyes, Vincent stands his ground as the demonic influence finally starts to dissipate.
A massive vertical energy slash bisects the demon, illuminating the dark school corridor with brilliant light.
Black blood sprays as the demon woman's arms are severed, leaving her defenseless and defeated.
A hand reaches out with grim intent, signaling the final moment of the violent confrontation.
Gripping the demon's head, Vincent coldly remarks that she will be the one losing her head.
A blinding pillar of holy light erupts, signaling the end of the demonic entity's manifestation.
Vincent calls for his weapon, and the sheriff quickly tosses the massive firearm back to him.
Vincent holds the barrel of his weapon against the demon's forehead, preparing the final execution. Standing over his enemy, Vincent asks if she has any final thoughts before he fires. The demon woman mockingly calls him a pitiful man even as her physical form begins crocking.
Vincent stares coldly as the demon addresses him by his surname, Burns, one last time.
She claims that no matter how much he devotes himself to God, he will never see his wife again.
The demon woman insists that Vincent is destined for hell in the end, regardless of his victories.
She reveals a shocking truth, stating that back then, what he killed wasn't a demon, but his wife.
The demon tells him to enjoy his life now because a horrible future is waiting for him.
Vincent fires his weapon, dismissing her claims as a mistake and ending her existence forever.
As the demon disintegrates into pink energy, Vincent walks away, muttering that he is already living in hell. The school building stands peacefully under a clear sky as the morning sun finally breaks through. Inside the quiet hallway, students begin waking up, feeling confused and disoriented from the ordeal.
The officer notes the students are waking and worries they might panic seeing demon corpses everywhere.
Vincent tells her to leave them, explaining their near-fatal blood loss will cloud their immediate awareness.
Diego runs through the hallway, calling out to Mr. Burns as he searches for answers. Vincent turns his attention to the boys, asking which student is the Barry they had mentioned earlier.
Diego and his companion exchange looks of uncertainty, admitting they don't know the person's identity either.
A purple glow emanates from a beating heart held by dark, shadowy hands.
Police officers scramble outside the school building as the investigation into the carnage begins. Emergency personnel load a wounded student into an ambulance as the area is secured.
The detective explains that the official story will label the incident a biochemical terror attack.
He warns Diego that the truth is classified and promises to find the missing girl.
Diego stands alone, his expression hollow and his clothes stained by the night's violent struggle.
A man comforts Diego, suggesting they leave the remaining cleanup to the responsible adults.
Approaching Vincent in the courtyard, the blonde sheriff asks if he is departing already. She thanks Mr. Vincent for saving her friend's life and expresses her deep appreciation.
Vincent remains stoic, his gaze shifting away as he silently processes the battle's end. The blonde sheriff pledges to pray for the peace of her fallen comrades who died tonight.
She notes he could have offered comfort to Camila and reminds him she stayed close.
She observes that Vincent currently lacks anyone to stand beside him in his grim crusade.
The sheriff brushes off his concern, claiming she isn't feeling sad despite the recent losses.
Her expression falters as she struggles to articulate the lingering trauma of the demonic encounter. She wonders if her fallen colleagues were as terrified as she was in their final moments.
Horrific memories of monsters overrunning villagers and a local church plague the sheriff's thoughts.
Determined to prevent more suffering, the sheriff prepares to make a bold personal request.
A desperate plea echoes through the air as she begs to join Vincent in his mission. Standing with conviction, she offers her strength to ensure no one else faces such horrors.
Vincent warns her that his path is one where death is a constant expected outcome.
She firmly replies that as a sheriff, she is already accustomed to living on the edge. She questions if Vincent truly believes there is a difference between hunting demons and criminals.
Without a word, the man walks away, his silhouette disappearing into the morning's bright light.
A small, resilient smile forms on the sheriff's face as she watches him go.
She loudly declares their new partnership, waving enthusiastically as Vincent continues his solitary walk.
The scene shifts to a quiet brick apartment building bathed in the gentle morning sun.
A narrow staircase leads down to a secluded basement unit tucked away from the street.
Vincent stares forward with a sullen, tired expression, reflecting the toll of his constant battles.
Sitting at the table, Vincent stares at his meal and demands to know what is served.
The sister clarifies she has prepared cream stew for their return to a normal routine.
She advises them to eat while possible, as the next demonic encounter is always looming.
With a gentle smile, the nun expresses her confidence that the meal will be enjoyable.
She reveals that the seasoning was approved by their demon friends while a skull sits nearby.
Taylor, the white-haired girl, stares blankly at the bizarre skull submerged in her bowl. Taylor discovers that face-planting into dinner is much faster than using a spoon for maximum efficiency.
Vincent pulls Taylor up by her collar, instructing her to use a spoon instead of copying monsters.
Taylor sits upright, stew dripping from her face as she holds her wooden spoon with confusion. Finding the situation unbelievable, Vincent begins to roughly clean the messy child's face.
He holds up a spoon to demonstrate the proper way to scoop and eat the steal.
Vincent brings the spoon to Taylor's mouth, explaining the simple mechanics of eating like humans.
Holding her spoon tentatively, Taylor watches him with wide, curious eyes, absorbing the lesson.
Following his instruction, the girl finally takes a proper bite of the cream stew.
Vincent offers rare praise, noting she can learn quickly if she is given proper guidance. The sister watches from the kitchen, suggesting that perhaps Vincent is becoming a teacher.
Vincent reasons that teaching Taylor language will eventually yield useful information about the demons.
A stray cat naps peacefully on the concrete outside, unaware of the nearby exorcists.
Vincent points out the sleeping animal and encourages Taylor to repeat the word for it.
Taylor stares at the creature, her mind working to grasp the concept of the spoken word.
Stuttering a single letter, the girl attempts to speak as Vincent waits for her progress.
Vincent confirms Taylor correctly identified the cat while she struggles to pronounce the word.
The cat meows loudly, leading Taylor to mimic its sound with wide, curious eyes. Vincent watches with visible confusion as Taylor continues meowing while pointing toward the cat.
Vincent questions if this animal mimicry represents genuine progress in the girl's language training.
Taylor stares at Vincent with a blank expression, seemingly confused by his skeptical line of questioning.
Taylor suddenly sprints away from the group, leaving the adults stunned by her abrupt movement.
Vincent calls out to Taylor, demanding to know where she is running off to so quickly.
Vincent warns Taylor that the dark back alley is far too dangerous for her to enter.
A grotesque, fleshy demon head lies defeated on the ground, its mouth frozen in a scream.
Vincent stares intensely at the remains, confirming that they belong to a foul demonic entity.
Observing the carnage, Vincent wonders if Taylor was responsible for killing the demon this time.
Taylor stands silhouetted against a brick wall, her expression neutral following the silent encounter.
In a vision of battle, Taylor meows while pointing toward a radiant, winged figure.
From a blurry perspective, the nun excitedly notes that their found guest is finally waking up.
The blonde-haired woman wakes up in bed looking dazed and confused by her new surroundings.
Looking around the small room from her bed, the woman asks where she has been taken.
Vincent explains he brought her here after finding her collapsed in the alley behind his office.
Camilla notes the woman survived the ordeal, while the celestial being lets out a terrified shriek.
Camilla frantically asks why the guest is naked, while Vincent notes she never had clothes. Camilla demands clothes for the guest as Taylor arrives holding a massive disinterested cat. Habel joyfully finds her missing key as Camilla desperately warns her not to stand up naked. Vincent concludes that the woman is exactly the type of celestial being they had imagined.
Habel proudly declares she is a messenger of heaven and an angel of love. Camilla remarks that their encounter must be a fated event decided by the world itself.
Habel asks to be taken to Priest Andres, noting their spiritual bond has been severed. Vincent bluntly reveals the priest she is seeking is dead, shocking the celestial guest.
Habel stares forward in absolute shock, frozen by the news of the priest's sudden death.
Processed by the grim reality, Habel quietly acknowledges that the tragic event has occurred.
The nun offers their assistance to the angel if she is willing to explain her situation.
Habel realizes Vincent is Andre's disciple, which gives her a reason to trust him.
Looking intently at Vincent, Habel confirms that his spiritual lineage makes him a trustworthy ally.
A radiant illustration shows two crossed holy keys glowing with intense divine celestial light.
Narration describes a black serpent stealing a key and fleeing to Earth to cross realms. A stylized depiction shows a celestial figure interacting with a kneeling priest in a golden realm.
The narrative states the gate of heaven was already closing as they faced the serpent again.
A beam of light strikes a skyscraper while a massive black serpent coils around the building.
Narrated text explains they were outnumbered and their holy power weakened as the gates closed. In the end, they could only choose to interfere with the demon's plan instead of stopping it.
Habel concludes her story, explaining how she reached this place after being separated from Andres.
Vincent ponders the angel's history, admitting that her complex explanation finally makes complete sense.
Camilla resolutely flexes her muscles, declaring that Andre's tragic death was not in vain. Habel manifests her wings through the uniform, vowing to open the gate once again. Taylor and the cat hide inside a trunk as Habel declares her intent to reopen gates.
Habel notices a piece of her key is missing, preventing her from opening the gate.
Habel commands the group to follow her as they prepare for the mission's next phase. Habel explains that since a soul has taken form within the key, she cannot touch it.
Vincent questions what the angel means by stating that someone bonded to the key must complete it.
Habel explains Taylor is a soul Vincent let go, perhaps a family member in younger form.
Vincent stares at Taylor, noting that she bears no resemblance to his late wife, Evelyn. Vincent firmly states he does not recognize the girl despite Habel's claims of a spiritual bond. Vincent looks on with a sullen expression while the nun stands calmly behind him.
Habel insists she is never wrong and that every word she speaks is the absolute truth.
The blonde sheriff finds the angel's manner of speaking incredibly strange, while Vincent remains visibly annoyed.
Alcar the Skull questions if a partnership between the angel and Burns puts them at a disadvantage. Habel confidently strides away from the desk while Alcar watches her with a surprised, wide-eyed expression.
Habel holds a flask over Alcar's head, prompting the panicked skull to ask what she is doing. Alcar continues to yell for her to wait as she prepares to pour something into his container. A dark silhouette shows Habel consuming the essence of a demon to replenish her celestial energies.
The sheriff covers her mouth in horror while Vincent watches the display with a tired, unimpressed gaze.
Radiating divine light, Habel explains it has been a millennium since she last used demons for power.
Alcar is left reeling in shock as the angel suddenly demands that they bring her a map.
A golden sword hilt begins to hum and glow with energy in the middle of the room.
Habel explains the fragment is located where the holy sword is currently pointing on the paper map.
The sheriff stares downward with a worried expression, processing the dangerous nature of their next destination. Vincent identifies the location as a problematic spot frequented primarily by dangerous criminals and lowlifes.
Vincent's gaze turns sharp and focused as he prepares himself for the inevitable confrontation ahead.
A terrifying, glowing, demonic skull manifests within the shadows, signaling a dark presence at their destination. Rubbing his forehead, Vincent sighs and acknowledges that demons are indeed present at the location. Vincent flashes a predatory grin, noting that the demons waiting there are ones he knows very well. The scene transitions to a massive, luxurious casino building standing tall against the setting evening sun.
Vincent adjusts his black tie, reflecting on how long it has been since he last wore formal wear. Dressed in a sharp suit and long coat, Vincent questions the necessity of wearing such formal attire.
From the shadows, the sheriff reminds him that a priest would attract too much attention in a casino.
The sheriff reveals her stunning cocktail dress, explaining that they must dress to match the environment.
She offers a small, slightly nervous smile while adjusting to her new, sophisticated undercover look.
Vincent agrees to find the fragment and put an end to the current crisis once and for all. A glowing neon sign for the casino back home stands out against the dark, cloudy night sky.
The massive casino building is fully illuminated, its many windows glowing brightly in the dark evening air.
An anonymous hand pulls the lever of a slot machine as the sounds of gambling fill awe.
A waitress dressed in a black bunny outfit carries a tray through the busy, golden-lit casino floor.
High-heeled shoes walk across an ornate, floral-patterned carpet as the group enters the gambling den. A man wearing a cowboy hat sits at a green felt table, intensely studying his playing cards. Near the bar, a shotgun is seen propped against the wall right behind a customer's school.
The sheriff walks through the crowded room, feeling the weight of the many suspicious gazes upon her.
She notes that everyone is openly carrying weapons and questions why firearms aren't prohibited in this casino.
A stranger suddenly reaches out and touches the sheriff, asking if she has come to the casino alone.
A creepy man with a mustache looms behind her, uncomfortably claiming that he is also alone tonight. The man asks which side she is with while the sheriff stammers in a state of pure confusion.
He remarks that regular visitors are rare and warns her that this is a rough place for women.
Vincent steps in, his face shadowed and intimidating, asking if the man has business with his female companion.
Terrified by Vincent's presence, the man quickly apologizes and wishes them a good time before scurrying away. Vincent continues walking while the sheriff looks at him, seemingly both relieved and annoyed by the interruption.
After thanking him, she is told she should have dressed more casually to avoid attracting unwanted attention.
The sheriff stops in her tracks, looking completely bewildered by Vincent's blunt and unexpected remark.
She wonders if Vincent just managed to insult her and give her a compliment at the same time.
Scanning the opulent room, Vincent admits he doesn't see any obvious hiding places for the missing fragment. Vincent's eyes widen in sudden realization as he spots something unexpected across the crowded casino floor.
He sees the young, white-haired girl Taylor walking alone down a long, red-carpeted hallway lined with portraits.
Both Vincent and the sheriff wear expressions of absolute shock at seeing the child inside the building.
The sheriff frantically wonders why the child, who was supposed to be with Habel, is now here.
A red-suited guard wonders if another guard allowed the young girl through the restricted area. The guard orders Taylor to stop, blocking her path through the hallway with his hand. The guard explains that only VIPs approved by the manager are allowed to pass through.
Vincent asks if Taylor is a VIP and mocks the guard's source of salary.
The annoyed guard tells Vincent to shut up and step back while pushing his shoulder.
Vincent remains completely unfazed and silent while being shoved by the muscular guard in red.
The guard prepares to throw a punch, his large fist closing in on the camera.
Vincent delivers a powerful counterstrike, sending the large guard flying with a thunderous impact.
Vincent tells the sheriff he is taking Taylor and instructs her to continue the investigation. The scene transitions from the casino ceiling lights to the dark, cloudy night sky outside. Habel flies through the night sky, her massive white wings glowing against the dark clouds.
Habel notes that Taylor and the nun entered, hoping Taylor's intuition simplifies the search.
Alcar asks if the angel is wearing him like jewelry while hanging from her waist. Habel calls the skull emergency rations, leaving Alcar in a state of absolute shock.
Habel asks the demon if he knows why the heavenly key was never stolen before.
Flying over the building, Habel explains that the key to heaven was never previously stolen.
Narration explains that demons never attempted to conquer the earth in the history of existence.
Habel's glowing blue eye emphasizes her point that world conquest isn't the demon's true purpose.
Habel asks where Satan went and why demons now follow strangers who call themselves judges.
A close-up shows the demon Alcar's teeth as he prepares to answer the angel's question.
Alcar reveals with glowing eyes that their leader, Satan, has betrayed the entire demon race. Vincent walks down the red-carpeted hallway, his brown shoes making a rhythmic walking sound.
Two guards in red suits talk about the manager's plan to catch a specific man.
Vincent approaches the distracted guards from behind, his silhouette looming large in the narrow corridor. A guard demands to know Vincent's identity, stating that unauthorized persons cannot enter this area. Vincent swiftly knocks out the guards, continuing his advance down the right-carpeted casino hallway. The guard yells in frustration, lunging at Vincent while calling him a derogatory name. Vincent walks past the defeated guard, his face shadowed as he moves deeper into the casino.
Scanning the opulent hallway, Vincent wonders where the little brat Taylor has run off to.
The camera pans past Vincent, showing another guard unconscious on the red carpet behind him. Taylor stands alone at the end of a long, dark hallway before a massive door.
Taylor reaches for the ornate handle, slowly pushing the door open to reveal a new room.
Vincent finds Taylor and scolds her for wandering around the dangerous building on her own.
They enter a grand, spotlighted hall with a massive chandelier and a black and white checkered floor.
A voice from the shadows quotes a proverb about the devil appearing when he is mentioned.
The manager claims he was just deciding how to deal with Vincent's unexpected solo arrival.
The manager sits at a green gaming table, his face obscured by shadow and hat. Vincent identifies the man as Mammon and notes that his previous injuries have healed nicely.
Mammon is revealed as a large man with a white beard, red eyes, and scars. Mammon asks if Vincent came to retrieve the items he is holding in his palm.
Mammon reveals the remaining two fragments as Taylor watches him from behind Vincent's coat.
Mammon offers to give the fragments to Vincent as they sit on the green table.
Mammon tells Vincent to put his fragments on the table, flanked by two bunny-eared waitresses. Mammon challenges Vincent to take the fragments himself, his red eye glowing with malevolent intent. Vincent fires a shot at Mammon, the bullet flying across the room toward the demon.
The bullet is deflected by an unseen force, creating a large burst of golden sparks.
A bunny-eared waitress deflections the bullet, mocking Vincent's habit of shooting first.
Mammon introduces Tatiana, a Russian military mercenary, praising her extremely fast combat reflexes.
Mammon introduces Italian mafia member Vittorio Moretti while he holds playing cards.
Mammon introduces a stern man named Killer Joe as the final member of his team.
Vincent remains unimpressed by Mammon's words, mocking the man's decision to introduce his hired associates.
Mammon displays a sinister, wide grin while identifying his new companions as mercenaries hired to kill Vincent. Armed men wearing trench coats and fedoras surround the area, drawing their weapons on the intruders.
Leaning over the gambling table, Mammon explains he has spent his time searching for Vincent's weakness.
An ancient-style illustration depicts a hooded figure executing a demon, supporting Mammon's claims about mortal power.
Vincent stands tall in the doorway as several gun barrels emerge from the shadows to target him.
The hall becomes a trap as armed guards close in on Vincent while Taylor watches from behind. A brief moment of focus centers on the golden handgun resting against Vincent's dark formal attire.
A sudden revelation confirms that Vincent's legendary immortality ability has no effect against regular human opponents.
The massive casino building stands as a beacon of light against the dark, cloudy evening sky.
A gunman spots his target and immediately opens fire with a golden revolver, shouting in excitement.
Vincent shields Taylor with his body while sprinting through a narrow hallway under a heavy bullet barrage.
Moving with lethal precision, Vincent returns fire and quickly neutralizes the guards blocking his path forward. Standing over the defeated guards, Vincent and Taylor prepare to advance deeper into the dangerous building. Checking his weapon, Vincent acknowledges Mammon's research but doubts the demon's ability to actually succeed. Vincent flashes a predatory, confident smile while pointing his golden pistol directly at his unseen enemies. A screen filled with static signals a disruption in the casino's sophisticated internal surveillance system.
A wall of security monitors displays various locations throughout the building, showing both activity and static.
Watching from the surveillance room, Mammon remarks that Vincent's arrogant personality has not changed over time.
While monitoring the situation, Mammon casually orders a waitress to bring him coffee with 5 sugars.
A gloved hand drops sugar cubes into a white coffee cup, causing the dark liquid to splash. Mammon speaks into a microphone, warning Vincent that the mercenaries are not his only enemies tonight.
The sheriff walks through the crowded casino floor while Mammon's voice begins to broadcast over the speakers.
Mammon's voice mocks the gamblers for their losses, drawing the confused attention of the undercover sheriff.
The demon manager announces he has prepared a special game for all the patrons currently present.
Suspicious men throughout the casino stop their gambling to listen to Mammon's sudden and mysterious announcement. A massive display of stocked $100 bills is revealed to the greedy eyes of the patrons.
A cart overflowing with $30 million in cash is brought out as the ultimate prize. Mammon offers the entire fortune to anyone who can successfully capture the specific man he wants.
Sipping his coffee, Mammon identifies the target as a man with a distinct cross-shaped forehead scar.
The manager issues a final lethal instruction for the casino patrons to kill and retrieve Vincent.
Driven by greed, a long-haired man draws his weapon and claims the massive prize money for himself.
The sheriff looks on in pure horror as the gamblers around her prepare for a manhunt.
A close-up of the sheriff's wide-eyed expression conveys her growing fear for Vincent's immediate safety.
Bullets fly through the air in a high-speed blur as the hunt for Vincent begins in earnest.
Vincent is pinned behind a pillar while Mammon's voice continues to direct the shooters toward him. Despite the intense fire and flying sparks, Vincent remains calm and focused while checking his ammunition.
Vincent praises Taylor for her courage and instructs her to keep following closely as they move.
A guard armed with a submachine gun patrols the red-carpeted hallway searching for the marked target.
Vincent suddenly lunges at the guard, grabbing his weapon and delivering a powerful, stunning physical blow.
With a swift motion, Vincent completely disarms his opponent and continues his relentless advance through the hall. Blood splatters the wall as the guard is knocked aside, clearing the path for the priest. A terrified guard desperately pleads for his life as Vincent closes in to neutralize the final threat.
Taylor watches silently as Vincent prepares to face the next wave of attackers in the grand hallway.
A black high-heeled shoe steps firmly onto the ornate carpet, signaling the arrival of a new opponent.
The mercenary Tatiana delivers a high, powerful kick that Vincent is forced to block with his arm.
Tatiana notes with a wicked smile that Vincent bleeds just like a normal human being would.
Vincent maintains a firm grip on Tatiana's leg, refusing to let her escape his range of counterattack. Tatiana maintains her aggressive stance, readying a hidden blade while staring down the determined and bloody priest.
Vincent fires a point-blank shot which Tatiana skillfully deflects using her metal serving tray as a shield.
Vincent's golden handgun clatters against the floor as a powerful impact sparks across the room. A mercenary quickly unsheaths a hidden blade, the metal glinting with a sharp, lethal motion.
Tatiana lunges forward, her aggressive strike drawing blood from her opponent in the chaotic scuffle.
Vincent's forehead veins bulge as his glowing blue eye intensifies, signaling his rising demonic fury.
With a brutal movement, Vincent slams the mercenary onto the checkered floor, ending her assault. The golden revolver hangs loosely at Vincent's side as he stands victoriously over his foe.
Vincent asks the mercenary if she loves money enough to knowingly cooperate with a demon.
Tatiana stares up in absolute terror, sweat dripping down her face as she faces certain death.
Vincent dismisses the value of the mercenary's blood money, labeling it as nothing but worthless paper.
Turning his back on the defeated woman, Vincent prepares to face the next wave of shooters.
Vincent walks calmly down the opulent hallway as several armed mercenaries emerge to block him.
A firing squad of trench-coated gunmen levels their submachine guns and shotguns at the priest.
Mammon mocks Vincent from the shadows, claiming no mortal can survive such an overwhelming barrage.
Despite the many weapons aimed at him, Vincent remains unfazed and confidently declares the fight over.
The gunmen are suddenly startled by a change in the environment, their confidence stances wavering.
The lights suddenly fail, plunging the casino into darkness and leaving Mammon confused by the blackout.
Deep within the building's maintenance room, the sheriff looks around in the dim, flickering light. The sheriff pulls the main power lever, hoping the darkness will aid Vincent's fight against demons.
In the pitch-black hallway, the panicked mercenaries shout orders to block exits and avoid friendly fire.
Agonizing screams and sounds of chaotic movement echo through the pitch-black darkness of the corridor. A desperate gunman with a cigar commands his comrades to shoot blindly into the dark hallway.
Flashes of gunfire illuminate the hallway as Vincent navigates the chaotic crossfire with lethal precision.
A heavy metal chain clashes against a solid surface, sending a shower of golden sparks flying.
A mercenary spots a sudden muzzle flash in the dark, his eyes widening in pure realization.
The lifeless body of a gunman lies on the red carpet, another victim of the priest.
The lead mercenary watches his men fall in the darkness, his expression hardening with growing dread.
Surprised by Vincent's lack of hesitation, the mercenary questions how a decent man kills so ruthlessly.
A blood-stained fedora rolls across the floor as another gunman is eliminated from the hunt.
Vincent stands tall amidst the bodies, noting he has witnessed the ends of far greater men.
Hiding behind a pillar, a terrified gunman admits the high bounty was justified for such a target.
The mercenary curses Mammon for sending them into a slaughterhouse under the guise of an easy job.
Habel stands silhouetted against a red glow, clutching Alcar's skull while surveying a pile of corpses.
Habel's face is bathed in a sinister red light, her single blue eye glowing with intensity. The lone survivor trembles in the shadows, desperately trying to use his radio for backup. Habel marches through a hail of bullets, the projectiles sparking harmlessly against her divine, winged form.
The gunmen continue their futile assault, the air filling with thick smoke from their rapid gunfire.
A shooter looks on in disbelief, sweating as he realizes their modern weapons cannot harm the angel.
Habel stands majestically amidst the smoke and lead, her glowing eyes fixed on her trembling human prey.
The angel muses on humanity's progress, finding guns just as primitive as the arrows of old.
A panicked henchman suggests fleeing, but his superior foolishly believes an angel will show mercy.
The boss reassures his subordinate that heavenly beings won't harm humans, unaware of Habel's true nature.
Habel mocks the human's assumption, stating she has never heard of an angel sparing the wicked.
Dropping his weapon, the terrified man begs for mercy as the divine executioner looms over him.
Without a word of pity, Habel slashes through her victim, blood spraying across the dark hallway. Alcar's skeletal face watches the carnage, its expression one of grim fascination at the angel's brutality.
The angel walks past the growing pile of bodies, her path cleared by relentless, holy violence.
A monstrous skeletal insect emerges from the shadows, its long proboscis sensing the nearby death.
A brilliant beam of celestial energy cuts through the darkness, illuminating the gruesome scene below.
Alcar shouts a warning as another demonic presence is sensed, his jaw hanging open in shock.
Habel threatens to consume the demon skull if he dares to interfere with her holy mission again.
Habel walks with Alcar's skull, wondering if she brought the quietest one with sharp hearing.
Alcar trembles in terror, fearing the unknown consequences of being consumed by a divine angel.
Watching from his office, Mammon expresses surprise that the solitary priest has gathered several companions.
Mammon remains confident that Vincent and his allies will eventually be forced to return.
The demon manager notes the presence of a key fragment as he monitors the area.
A sudden realization strikes Mammon, his eyes wide with shock as he notices something missing.
Blue sparks dance around Mammon as he frantically asks when the item disappeared from his sight.
Mammon studies the monitors, realizing he has never seen the blonde woman's face in his casino.
A mechanical hand drops sugar into a white cup, the dark coffee splashing upon impact.
His face bathed in blue light, Mammon realizes Vincent has successfully deceived him tonight. A solitary light bulb in the basement flickers and hums, struggling to maintain its illumination. The sheriff stares up at the light, confused as to why the power is returning.
Startled by shadows, the sheriff questions who is there while noting the power was cut.
A shadowed man asks the sheriff if she is responsible for cutting the building's power.
Terrified and defensive, the sheriff claims she simply got lost and stumbled into the maintenance room.
The man with the shotgun eyes her suspiciously, deciding he needs a moment to think.
Identifying the woman, the man with the mustache realizes she is the target with a bounty.
Frustrated that her cover is blown, the sheriff acknowledges she was the one who lowered the circuit breaker.
The armed men close in on the sheriff, commanding her to come with them quietly. As the man offers mercy for obedience, the sheriff's blue eye glows with a dangerous intensity.
Striking out in a fury, the sheriff yells at the man to stop touching her.
The shotgun-wielding guard recoils in shock, hurling insults at the woman for her sudden aggression. A powerful blow connects with the mercenary's face, the impact highlighted by a vivid purple flash.
The guard screams in agony, clutching his head as he is overwhelmed by the sheriff's assault.
With lethal agility, the sheriff delivers a brutal knee strike to her opponent's face.
The mustache man reacts with shock, his own forehead veins bulging as he witnesses the violence.
Using the guard's own shotgun as a club, the sheriff prepares to deliver a finishing blow.
Sounds of a violent struggle echo through the maintenance room beneath the dim ceiling light.
The mercenary lies defeated on the floor, his face bruised and bloody from the sheriff's intervention.
Adjusting her gloves, the sheriff declares that catching men like them is her professional duty.
Habel walks purposefully down a dimly lit industrial corridor, her white hair flowing behind her.
Turning toward a voice, the sheriff looks surprised to see her companion.
The sheriff warns the others not to wander off alone as they move toward the exit.
The sheriff stops in her tracks, looking in disbelief at a woman wearing a bunny costume.
Taylor, dressed as a bunny waitress, greets Chloe and explains she has been searching for her.
The sheriff follows closely behind Taylor and Chloe as they walk across the stone plaza.
Wide-eyed and confused, the sheriff asks if the woman is actually a religious sister.
Taylor smiles cheerfully, stating that saving the world requires certain personal sacrifices regarding her attire.
The sheriff warns her companions not to interfere with the dangerous task ahead of them.
Vincent stands ready for battle, declaring his intent to settle his scores with Mammon.
Habel looks at Vincent with concern, dismissing the idea that he needs to face the demon.
Chloe hands an object to Taylor, promising to retrieve whatever is needed right away.
Glowing triangular fragments are poured out of a metal pitcher, sparkling against the dark sky.
Chloe raises the glowing fragments high above her head, her blue eyes shining with triumph.
Vincent questions the wisdom of revealing the key fragments directly in front of their enemy. Taylor holds a small device, cryptically stating that the fragments are not their only surprise. Vincent holds a detonator, explaining he has scattered his car's contents throughout the entire building.
Mammon's face is consumed by blue energy as he screams a demand for Vincent to reveal himself.
Fully transformed and crackling with divine electricity, Mammon claims he is Vincent's only true opponent.
Mammon bellows a challenge, demanding an end to the fight they left earlier that day. Alkar's skeletal face is frozen in a wide-eyed expression of terror as things escalate.
Mammon bellows Vincent's name while being consumed by a blinding holy light from within.
The skyscraper erupts in a massive explosion, raining debris and fire onto the streets.
A colossal fireball expands outward, signaling the complete destruction of the demon's luxurious stronghold.
Chloe smiles amidst the burning wreckage, questioning if her contribution was truly helpful today.